guys, welcome in. It is the Rob Kendall Show. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for spending it with us. Man, do we have a big show coming up for you today. Joining us in just a little bit, Ball State economist Michael Hicks is going to be with us. He had a recent piece, we talked about it on the show, saying what a disaster financially the Bears Stadium in Hammond, if it comes to fruition, is going to be for the taxpayers of Indiana. We will get into that, breaking down the numbers, breaking down the economics of a Bears Stadium in Hammond. That's coming up in just a little bit. But first, and I used to say this all the time with the old radio show, every time we get in the summer, what the hell are we going to talk about? What are we going to do to fill the time for 4, 5, 6 months between when the session ends and the election season begins? And every year, the politicians, they never let us down because they never stop doing stupid stuff, brazen stuff, ridiculous stuff that gives us plenty to talk about. And that's where we're at right now with this Max Engling dark money donation that was forced to be returned. Now, we got into this yesterday. We spent a lot of time. We opened the show with it on our show yesterday with it. I think it's a massive deal. And it's not because they screwed up and accepted a donation, a large donation that they weren't supposed to. That's its own deal. But it's because Max Engling was put in that position to be the Republican nominee to be Secretary of State because the Republican Party recognized that Diego Morales, they finally admitted to themselves, Diego Morales was going down because of his brazen corruption and incompetence. Scandals, plural, as the Attorney General Todd Rokita referred to it. And I think probably the biggest part of this story is the guy who was originally running against Diego, he was a great choice. I think if you caught Bo Bai and Greg Ballard in a moment of truth, if you could hook them up to a truth serum, they'd have told you David Shelton was by far the worst person for them to run against. But the Republicans couldn't have that because they knew Shelton couldn't be controlled. And they had to accomplish two things. Number one, they had to get Diego out of the race. So they had to get behind somebody they felt could beat Diego. And two, it had to be somebody that was going to play ball after they got in there to ensure that Diego was not held to account, because Diego was connected to so many money people and Diego was connected to so many politicians. And who knows who knew what and when. And that's what the Max Engling candidacy is all about. We've been saying this since the moment he announced he was running. If you vote for Max Engling for Secretary of State, you are voting to sweep under the rug the brazen corruption and incompetence of Diego Morales. You are affirming all of that stuff because that's what the candidacy is all about. They had the guy who could do the job. They had the guy who wasn't political. The guy, if you were to look up infinitely qualified to be Secretary of State, it was David Shelton. And the Republican power structure said unacceptable. So when we see right out of the gate the first big headline for the hand-picked replacement, that it is either a level of incompetency beyond words, or as it appears now, maybe they're not being forthcoming about what they did, it's a huge story. The backstory makes it a bigger story than it would have been. It's a big enough story on its own because this guy wants to oversee elections in the state of Indiana. He has no qualification to do this whatsoever, just like Diego. And what's the first thing he's making headlines for? Accepting a donation he was not supposed to accept and then had to give the money back. So, as we talked about yesterday, David Shelton filed a complaint, Knox County clerk, with the Indiana Election Division about this dark money group, Hoosier Leadership for America, giving $60,000 to Max Engling. Now, Shelton's argument which appears to have been completely backed up by the fact that Engling's campaign gave the money back, was that corporations, the donation was illegal because corporations cannot give more than $5,000 to candidates, to statewide candidates. And obviously, public school math tells us $60,000 is 12 times more than $5,000. And on their website, et cetera, which we'll get into here in a second, this group is listed as a 501c4 nonprofit organization. They are bound by the donation rules. Again, backed up by the fact that Engling's organization gave this donation back. So yesterday, well, let's go back. Numerous media companies covered the story, and essentially the excuse from the Engling campaign was, yeah, we took the money, but we just didn't know enough about them. And then out of kind of like an abundance of caution, we gave the money back. Yeah, we didn't know. We got the money, and then 14 days later, somebody was like, oh, this might have been a mistake. I mean, sure, we got to put the $60,000 donation on our campaign finance report, which made us look good to other potential donors. But it was an honest mistake. Honest mistake. We didn't know. We didn't know about these guys. Oops, sorry. But we fixed it. Well, yesterday, David Shelton saw that. He read the various media reports, and he said, no, not so fast. Not so fast. And by the way, I don't think there's anyone on this planet who probably knows more about Indiana elections and election law than David Shelton. So after seeing the response from the Engling campaign, now remember, Shelton sent his complaint Friday. After seeing the response from the Engling campaign, here is the press release David Shelton sent out yesterday. The Max for Indiana campaigns claim that they are still, quote, unclear on Hoosier Leadership for America entity type is provably false. On August 25th, 2025, campaign treasurer Max Engling, who certified the 715 filing. Remember, the very odd part of this is that Engling is his own treasurer, or at least he was, which puts him totally on the hook for what's ever in the report. We talked about this yesterday, that it is bizarre. Now, you will see this, right? Like a school board candidate or a town council candidate or coroner or whatever, where you can't get volunteers. You can't get people. It's a small town. People will be, it's not advisable for this exact reason, but the people will be their own treasurer. And it's understandable. It's bizarre with the amount of money that Max Engling would be expected to raise as the Republican candidate for Secretary of State. He would be his own treasurer because he opened himself up to all sorts of liability, and it's already bit him in the ass. So that's what he's talking about when he talks about campaign treasurer Max Engling. On August 25th, 2025, campaign treasurer Max Engling, who certified the 715 filing, posted an invitation graphic to a Hoosier Leadership for America summit on his personal Facebook page. He captioned the post, quote, free event for conservative Hoosiers, RSVP required. Follow the link in the graphic to sign up. See you there. Shelton goes on to write, that invitation graphic includes the following text. Hoosier Leadership for America is a 501c4 nonprofit organization, and then lists the tax ID number. He's listing right there in his Facebook page from almost a year ago, according to Shelton, who these people are. A year ago, according to Shelton, he makes this post telling people to go to their event, telling people to engage with them, and listing what they are. Yet we're led to believe in June, they accept this donation from this group, this massive donation, and they go, well, we didn't know what they were. We're just giving the money back out of an abundance of caution. Shelton goes on to write, on September 13th, he posted photos from the event itself, implying that he was in attendance. He also linked to the Hoosier Leadership for America Facebook page in the text he included in the post. That HLFA Facebook page clearly states that it is a 501c4 nonprofit organization. August 25th of a year ago, telling people to go. September 13th, he's there promoting the event again. Now, I want to pause. I'm going to come back to Shelton's press release. And by the way, Shelton is not letting this go. Hell hath no fury like a candidate who got screwed at the convention scorned. He's not letting it go. And as we talked about yesterday, he really has these guys boxed in. Because he's saying, and it appears to be pretty good reasoning, you pick your poison now. Either the campaign donation was illegal or the way you're registered is not right. And if you're not registered right, then we get to see all of your donors. And remember, that's the big thing with the nonprofit groups. They don't have to disclose their donors, but they are limited on what they can engage in. Okay, I'm going to come back to Shelton's press release in a moment. I did a little bit of digging on my own. And it may be down now. I don't know, because it was 30 minutes ago or so that I posted this. But this whole thing sort of seems like it's a bunch of incompetency, so it may still be up there. If you go to Hoosier Leadership for America's website, I believe you put Hoosier Leadership, the numeral for America, I think is the website. Hoosier Leadership for America. You go to their website. And then if you scroll down, you click register. I think it's register is what it says. If you scroll down there to the bottom, it says register. And it takes you, or at least it did as of about 30 minutes ago, it took you to an event promoting a reception that Hoosier Leadership for America hosted, quote, for GOP convention delegates at the Indiana Republican Convention in Fort Wayne on June the 19th. It was at a 7-story luxury apartment complex called The Pearl. Is it down? Hoosier Leadership for America. Did you put the numeral 4 in? Well, if you guys would like to see the post, it's up at Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. If you'd like to see it for yourself. I've got it up on Facebook as well. It says, quote, for convention delegates. So this is June the 19th. So it's clearly targeted at people who are about to vote in the convention. The featured names at the top of the flyer listed as special guests for this event: Max Engling and Jim Banks. Oh, there it is. Okay, you found it. All right, there it is.
Their website link is broken, but
okay. So you found it. So it is still there. Okay, very good. So again, this flyer, which you guys can see for yourself at Rob M. Kendall, if you don't want to go through the process, but Jason has confirmed it's still up and active. At Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. It says for convention delegates, so it's clearly targeting people who are about to vote. The featured names at the top of the flyer listed as special guests: Max Engling and Jim Banks. So on one hand, 11 days later, which is according to the Capitol Chronicle when the donation was accepted, Engling, because he's the treasurer, he's on the hook for it. I mean, you can't even say his people because he's the treasurer. His signature's on the form. So we're not even going to say in his people. The stupidity of him making himself his own treasurer is beyond words. So we're led to believe that 11 days after Max Engling appeared as a, quote, special guest at an event for delegates, at a special event in Fort Wayne at the Republican State Convention put on by Hoosier Leadership for America. 11 days later, he didn't know enough about them to know whether he could accept a $60,000 donation? Do you believe that for a second? I mean, at best, that is a level of incompetence that should tell everyone, as bad as Diego is, when it comes to incompetence, you shouldn't want this guy anymore near our elections. That's the best case scenario. He's a year back, according to Shelton, promoting these people. 11 days before the donation, he's at an event as their special guest with Jim Banks. And yet we're told it was unclear who they were. Guys, I looked this up. It's very clear they're a 501c4. He mentions it on all the forms. It's clear on their website. They're a 501c4. They say it. So I thought, well, like, would a lay person know? Let's just pretend maybe Engling is just that stupid. I mean, that's going to have to be his defense now, right? Like, I'm just that stupid. Which is what we told you from the beginning. The guy has no business being in the office. So maybe Max Engling's actual defense is I really am just that stupid. So I said, all right, let's pretend you knew nothing about election law, which Max Engling probably doesn't. Clearly he doesn't. What would you get if you just Googled 501c4? Like a layperson like me, just a commoner. Here's what it says about 501c4. Corporate structure. They must be formed as a corporation, trust, or association under state law before applying for IRS tax exemption. Right there. They must be formed as a corporation. So at the very least, you would know just by Googling it. Hey, it says corporation, trust, or association. Maybe before I give them the wiring instructions, because that's the other thing that is not getting talked enough about here. They use the term, and the spokeswoman used the term wiring. Wiring's a very specific thing. It ain't PayPal. I asked somebody yesterday, because Jason and I had this conversation. I'm like, well, what if he just put a PayPal link up? What would stop somebody, or what are the Venmo or all the other types? See, I just deal in cash. This is why. Or checks. People are like, Rob, you're sold. See, this is why. I said, well, like, I talked to somebody who's familiar with elections, with campaigns. I said, what would stop? What if somebody just randomly, gave you $60,000 on a Venmo or a PayPal or whatever? Well, they said, number one, that doesn't immediately go into your account. That's the first part of it. You still have to transfer the money for the donation to be complete. But they also said, as Shelton is pointing out, the person who gave the money, the corporation who gave the money, is also potentially liable. So if somebody were just going to screw with you, they'd also be screwing themselves because they're also potentially on the hook. So that wouldn't happen. So it appears very clear, unless Engling's people would like to offer a different explanation based on what has been said, they gave these people, Hoosier Leadership for America, the ability to give them money. It's the same as a check. They had to give them the information to get the money from. So you have a guy who 11 days before doing that was listed as a special guest for these people. A year before that, according to David Shelton, was promoting their event, and he's listing what they are on the event. Okay, so then I come to the next thing, and I start digging. I'm like, all right, well, because when you look at the flyer, right, Banks and Engling are listed as special guests, but then there's a whole bunch of other people that are listed at this event. And let me be abundantly specific. The people who went to the event, nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing. Be for who you want to be for, support who you want to support, tout who you want to tout. There's technically nothing wrong with Engling appearing at the event, or Banks. Now, it gets ridiculous when they start accepting money from these guys that they don't know what they are. I think you got to really, 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 really stretch the imagination to assume they didn't know. But all the people who appeared at the event as speakers or whatever, good on them. Support who you want to support. If after this you still want to support Max Engling, if you think this is the sort of competency, the sort of intellect, the sort of understanding of our elections, the sort of honesty, integrity that you're looking for, do it. There's no problem with that. But I was curious, like, what actually took place? Was there like campaigning for Max Engling that went on there? Or was it, hey, it's a nonpartisan event? It seemed pretty hard to believe that would be what took place. But like, what exactly went on? And so did a little bit of digging, found this post from June the 20th at 4:29 a.m. So remember, the event was on June the 19th. This post was from 4:29 a.m., June the 20th, the next day, the day of the Republican convention. So the event that this person is referencing, one would assume, was the night before. And there were a list of high-profile broadcasters that were at this event. And good on them. If they want to go, if they want to speak, good. They did nothing wrong. And some of the names on the list, including the lady from Fort Wayne who does the morning show, Tony Katz was on the list. Maybe somebody could ask Tony if he could give further clarification about what went on at this event. And our friend Dan Dockich was there. And, Dan's a friend of our show. He's a personal friend. Love Dan. And if he's for Max Engling, good for him. You're entitled to vote for whoever you want to vote for. But this post from June 20th at 4:29 a.m. was from Nathan Roberts. And Nathan Roberts lists himself as the statewide field rep for Turning Point USA. And if you guys know Nathan, I think he used to be with the Save Heritage Indiana group. He's very involved politically. He posted a photo of himself with Dan Dockich. And he captioned it with the following. And again, there's nothing wrong from Dan Dockich's perspective of what he did. He's entitled to campaign for who he wants to campaign for, support who he wants to support, talk about who he wants to talk about. It's fine. I'm just talking from what actually went on at this event. I just want to know exactly what went down. Was it an educational forum? Was it a campaign event? Because it goes back to how much we can believe, or how tight was the association with Max Engling and Hoosier Leadership for America. Because the story, you see how the story keeps falling apart? About how ridiculous it gets to believe, we didn't know about these guys. We weren't really sure. I mean, if they had just come out and said, hey, we took the money and we shouldn't have, and that's a huge mistake on our part, and we won't let it happen again, and we'll accept any consequences that come from it. Okay, story's over with. But you have this accepting of the money, the day of, according to the Capitol Chronicle, the last day for donations to be in the report, and then it takes them 14 days to figure out that there's a mistake. And they don't broadcast it to anyone. They just do it quietly. And David Shelton has to find it. And so it's like your personal life, your friendships, your relationships, whatever. If you catch somebody kind of being a sneak and it comes off as being dishonest on something that was pretty easily catchable, doesn't your next question become, what else are they sneaking on? What else are they not telling the truth about? What else do I need to be aware of, or should I be asking questions about? So here's what Nathan Roberts wrote. It's a photo of himself with Dan Dockich. And he wrote, quote, "Was a huge honor to meet former IU head basketball coach Dan Dockich, who spoke in favor of @Max for Indiana." That's Max Engling's Twitter handle. At Senator Banks' watch party. Now, again, I'm putting these together here, that Dan Dockich is listed as a feature speaker, guest, whatever, at this event. He's at the event. Nathan Roberts takes a photo with Dan Dockich as he's speaking in favor of Max Engling. So that would lead me to believe that Dan Dakich was giving some sort of campaign speech for Max Engling, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He's entitled to do whatever he wants to do. But it would lead one to believe that this was just more than some educational info forum where Max Engling is showing up. And by the way, the next question would be, were all the candidates invited? Because, as a 501c4, that's a nonprofit. We're supposed to be educating people. You can do some political activity as part of the rules, but you're supposed to be educating people. If we wanted to educate everyone, wouldn't it have been right to invite all 4 candidates? As a 501c4. Okay. I found all of that stuff in about 5 minutes, guys. The stuff I just laid out to you, which clearly identifies them as a 501c4, clearly identifies the history Engling has with the group, clearly identifies there was this event that they put on, all of that in about 5 minutes. Okay, let's get back to Shelton's press release. He goes on to say, although the campaign publicly admitted on 7/14 that it refunded the contribution, the Q2 campaign finance report filed the very next day still misclassified Hoosier Leadership for America as a non-corporation and listed an inflated, misleading cash-on-hand figure. Bingo. So he's saying that based on their own timeline, which again, yet as of this morning, we have not seen proof they gave the money back yet, and we'll get to that in a second. They're saying on 7/14, we gave the money back. We refunded the contribution. Yet the very next day, I believe it's 7/15 that went in, they listed them as a non-corporation and had them on the filing report. So if you're a donor and you're looking at, hey, how's Engling doing? Do I want to get behind this guy? Because that's how it works with campaigns. It's why the early fundraising is so big. Donors look at how much other people give you to decide whether they want to get on board. They were able to show this massive donation on their campaign finance report, despite the fact that they had given the money back. So it misleads other potential donors about how you're doing. Shelton goes on to say, this suggests the campaign may have been trying to conceal the illegal corporate contribution. Regardless, it appears the treasurer knowingly filed a fraudulent report, which the form's own written warning identifies as a level 6 felony. Let me go back and repeat that. This suggests that the campaign may have been trying to conceal the illegal corporate contribution. Regardless, it appears the treasurer knowingly filed a fraudulent report, which the form's own written warning identifies as a level 6 felony. Who's the treasurer? Max Engling. He signed off on all of this. He can't blame it on someone else. He can't say Cheryl was new. He can't say Larry's still getting his feet wet. Oops. I'm the treasurer. In this case, he is. The campaign's refund of the $60,000 contribution to Hoosier Leadership for America surely triggers the penalty statute for corporations that exceed the $5,000 limit, requiring an automatic fine assessed by the Indiana Election Commission to Hoosier Leadership for America. And this is what he closes with, and this is actually really important. And we said this yesterday. There's no proof they've returned the money yet. They've said they returned the money. There's no proof they returned the money and that they did it in the order they said, because dates will matter. Doesn't mean they didn't. It just means we haven't seen any proof. Until the campaign provides copies of its bank records to the Indiana Election Commission and the media, it should not be assumed that its claim of refunding the $60,000 contribution on 7/14 is true. The Republicans, led by Jim Banks and Todd Rokita, pushed Diego Morales out because of scandals, plural. Because of a lack of, Jim Banks' own words, Diego lied to him about hiring a non-citizen. I believe we go back in the vault, we're going to find that. Remember that Banks said, I think he used the word, he lied to me. I'll go back and check that. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. About the non-citizen being his deputy chief of staff. And here, in the opening days of the Max Engling campaign, the hand-picked guy to replace Diego, I'm running out of other options here, guys. Either it's a level of incompetence that actually surpasses Diego Morales. For a year of association with these people to not know what they are and not know the campaign finance. Hell, I've been out of politics for 11 years, guys. I knew the campaign finance rule for corporations with candidates. He's the candidate. He's the treasurer. He wants to oversee elections in our state, and he doesn't know? Really? Really? He doesn't know? Okay. If we accept that, then it's a level of incompetence that probably surpasses Diego. Let's accept that. Okay, that's option one. Option two would be he knew what it was, and he took it anyway. If there is a third option here, I'm willing to hear it. Hopefully, the media will realize the gravity of this story. You have a dark money group, which is fine. They're allowed to exist. But there's very strict rules they have to abide by because they get to hide their donors. And it appears, at the very best, that group violated those rules. And it appears the Engling campaign backs that up by returning the donation. This should be the story right now. Who are these people that have given to this group? Who signed off in that group to stroke, well, it's not a check, it's a wire of $60,000. And what's going on with the Engling campaign that despite a year of association with these people, he doesn't know enough about them to know if he can accept their money. All very, very interesting stuff. If there's a third road for me to walk down, I'm willing to hear it. If the England campaign wants to put that out, I'm willing to let you know what it was. Wild stuff. All right. Let's go ahead and get to some housekeeping items. Number one, welcome to the program. Maybe we have some new people in today. Like, share, and subscribe. That's how you can help us grow if you like this program dedicated to Indiana news, politics, and government. First of all, you hit that thumbs up button. Really helps us grow the program, whether you're watching us live on YouTube or on demand. If you're one of the thousands of people who join us via the on-demand methods, give us a 5-star review, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, all the places. Share that feed out. Let people know. We're dedicated to bringing you 3 hours a day, most of it Indiana news, politics, and government you're not going to get anywhere else. And so you can share that out if you got a Facebook, if you got a Twitter. And last but certainly not least, subscribe to us on whatever platform you are checking out this fabulous program. Also, we're having a big event put on by our friend John Rust, October the 3rd. It is at his palatial Seymour estate. And you're invited. The public's invited. All you Rob Kendall Show listeners, viewers, guests, you're invited. It's a public event. It's in celebration of the 250th anniversary of America. John's going to have patriotic music, antique car show, lunch catered by Double D's. I'm going to give a little speech about how great the country is. And a whole lot more. Birthday cake, Jason's birthday. Totally free to attend. Event starts at noon. All you got to do to go is RSVP. And how you do that is you send an email. rustforamerica@gmail.com. rustforamerica@gmail.com. And tell John your name, how many people are coming, and bam, there you go. You're in. A lot of RSVPs already. John gave us the number yesterday. I was like, holy smokes, people really want free food from Double D's. Oh my gosh. It's going to be a great time. Join us. It will be a blast. Hey, Anthony Gary, he owns Indy Dwell Real Estate. And he doesn't just list homes for sale. He gets them noticed. He gets them shown. He gets them sold without you losing sleep or sanity. With Anthony, he's trained with some of the top negotiators on earth and is ready to help you achieve your real estate goals. Put Anthony's expert selling strategy and experience to work for you. Call or text Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate, 317-756-1159, 317-756-1159. We got a ton of stuff to get to today. Do we want to go and do the audio now? All right. We got Michael Hicks, Ball State economist, is going to be with us. He's going to be talking about the Bears Stadium and what an economic disaster that's going to be. We got some great audio coming your way, which I guess Jason is in a very stern voice said we're going to do next. We got a ton of stuff to get to today. Where else are you going to get this sort of quality programming? Who's going to be holding the politicians accountable like us? The answer is nobody. We'll be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show. Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All-American Dog Fence. All-American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use, in-ground fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All-American Dog Fence backs their Pet Stop products with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All-American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Mention the Rob Kendall Show and get $200 off a new installation.
DC politicians don't care. Buying stocks with insider information, they get filthy rich. But if you did it, you'd get locked up. Thankfully, there's one fighter on our side. Senator Todd Young is pushing to ban all congressional stock trading forever. He's never traded a single stock while in Congress. Young's a Marine who does the right thing. Contact Senator Todd Young. Thank him for standing up for us and for fighting to ban congressional stock trading.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
Guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, you really help us grow the program. Hit that little thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Helps us grow. Get the word out about Indiana news, politics, and government across the Hoosier State. All right, audio stuff to get to here in just a moment. Some good stuff today, some wild stuff today. But first, you guys got a leaky chimney? Water in the basement. Cracks around the exterior of your home? Bramwell McKay Property Services and Consultants is your authority for chimney repair, tuck pointing, foundation repair, crawl space to basement conversions, basement waterproofing, and more. Bramwell McKay doesn't offer quick patches. Their team of 40-year master masons and industry experts address the root cause, provide solutions that last lifetimes. Your home is one of your biggest investments. Treat it that way. Bramwell McKay, BRAMWELLMCKAY, BramwellMcKay.com, your masonry, foundation, and chimney specialist. And, look, thanks to all of our sponsors. Some have been with us from the beginning. Some have come on board over time. Please contact these sponsors, even if you don't need their service, and thank them. They are the reason we're able to give you Indiana news and politics and government you're not going to find anywhere else. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. All right, let's get to some audio here. So it's become abundantly clear the Democrats have defeated the Republicans again. And this seems like it happens time after time after time. The Democrats, no matter what sort of majority or power the Republicans have, the Democrats just find a way to, what was the slogan on Survivor? Outwit, outlast, outplay. And the Republicans, it seems like, oftentimes give in to the Democrats when they're in power. But the Democrats, they never budge. And ultimately it'll rest with the Republicans. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency. Anything that doesn't get done, it's on them. And it appears that the Republicans have failed in a spectacular fashion to get just the most basic of thing, which is that you have to show an ID in order to vote. Like, it seems so logical, so easy, so simple, and yet we're going to have another election where in a whole bunch of states in this country, you don't have to show an ID in order to vote. They failed. They failed with the SAVE Act. And we said months ago, and some of you guys got mad at me when I said it, and I said, it's not saying that I don't agree with it. I'm saying it's not the best approach to get the most important stuff done. The most important stuff is the voter ID, is proving you're a citizen in order to be registered to vote. Those two things are what matter. And when you throw in a bunch of stuff about mail-in balloting and everything else, while it may be right, and I may agree with it, you got too thin of a margin, and, it's the whole thing, right? You confuse them, you lose them. And you get too much stuff in there, and then you start getting little parts or little pockets that people don't agree with, and you lose the coalition to get this thing done, which the majority of people in this country overwhelmingly support. Republicans can't even pass a thing that the majority of people in this country overwhelmingly support of both parties, which is voter ID. And Chuck Schumer yesterday, Democrat leader in the Senate, he took a victory lap and said the thing that's been obvious for a while. The SAVE Act is dead on arrival, and it ain't going to happen.
On the SAVE Act, it's a new week in Washington, but one thing remains the same. The SAVE Act is dead on arrival in the Senate. Trump keeps tiring himself out running the same play. Trump knows he can't defend Republicans' his abysmal record, so he whines for the GOP to pass the SAVE Act to disenfranchise voters who want to hold him accountable in November. Give it up, Donald. The SAVE Act ain't going to happen.
It's a stinging defeat because it does a couple things. One, you guys look like complete idiots that you couldn't even get something that the overwhelming majority of Americans support passed. The second thing is it deflates your base. This voter ID stuff is a key issue for the base of the Republican Party, the base of Trump, the base that's still left. And when you fail to deliver on core issues, people say, well, what's the point in voting? I voted for you. You said you were going to do this. You haven't done it. And you could say that about a wide swath of things for the Republicans. But this is a really big one. Voter ID. I show up to vote. I am who I say I am. Here's a picture. Here's a signature. Give me my ballot. I am a citizen of this country. And they blew it. And again, I just think Trump is his own worst enemy on this stuff. He has that address to the country a couple weeks ago. What's he do? He's talking about 2020 all over again. He's talking about China. People are just like, it is 2026, man. That was 6 years ago. Now, it doesn't mean that, like in the case, we're going to talk about Fauci here, where it's abundantly clear that he just lied out of his ass about COVID and did irreparable harm. It doesn't mean if you have somebody in front of you that you can talk to that you don't do it. But it's just a totally missed opportunity, and it allows people like Schumer to take a victory lap. I'm so sad that the Republicans have blown it again on something that's not even controversial. It has an overwhelming majority support of Americans. All right. You guys remember yesterday we played you that audio of, I think her title was National Co-Chair of the Democrat Socialists of America. Megan Romer, I think was her name. And her saying all of the things that the Democrat Socialists would do, affirming all of the things they would do. No police, no military, no borders. Totally, essentially wipe out the Senate and the Supreme Court. All of these things she affirmed. To her credit, she was very honest when asked by Fox News about these things. She didn't run, she didn't hide. She says, yes, these are the things we believe. Well, it's getting a ton of play. And I said yesterday, if I were a Republican running for U.S. House or U.S. Senate, I'm running that ad. I'm just taking that clip and I'm cutting it down to 30 seconds and I say, here's the Democrats, vote accordingly. And it is getting a lot of play around the country, both on Fox News and other news outlets. We're playing the clip. And so this guy, and I'm going to probably butcher his name, and I'm sorry, I've tried it several times, and you always think you have it down until you have to do it while the camera's on. This is not intentional. His name is Raja Krishnamurthy. Raja Krishnamurthy. He's an Illinois state rep. He's a Democrat. He got asked about the audio from the lunatic DSA lady. And he was asked, does this represent Democrats? And now the Democrats are really in a box on this because she said all this stuff out loud. So he says no, but then listen to how he tries to tiptoe around it and explain why he would want to be in the same party as someone who said all the stuff this lady said the other day. Take a listen.
Are those positions the Democratic Party should accept in your view?
No, and I think the vast majority of Democrats do not. But of course, we're a big tent party where people have different viewpoints. I think that the mainstream viewpoints are ones of, making sure that everyone has a chance to get on the up escalator of the economy. And secondly, that everyone has a chance, regardless of who you are, where you come from, or the number of letters in your name. There are 29 in mine. Mm-hmm. And so I think those are kind of the big tent kind of priorities of the Democratic Party.
The problem he's got, though, is those people are now the face. They're the vocal ones. They're the ones getting on TV. They're the ones getting heard. They're the ones that the base is getting behind or aligning up with. See, the Democrats are stuck on this because they let it fester for too long. They wanted these people. See, when I go back to guys like Bill Maher, who Bill Maher rightfully now espouses what these nutbags are, and he says, I don't want any part of it. The problem is he helped enable them to come to be. The Democrats spent years energizing and whipping these people up who they know are complete nutbags because they wanted their activism, they wanted their door knocking, they wanted their passion. They needed them to fight Trump. The problem is, and they should have known, and they probably did, but didn't care, you lose the control of the plot. You get hijacked writing your own novel. There was no way to contain these people because they're insane. And now it's gotten to a point where they're starting to win elections. They're not just activists anymore. They're not just door knockers. They're not just people putting out signs. They're not just agitators on Twitter. They're winning. And they're taking over the party, and they still won't address it. They still won't condemn it. They still won't fight back against it. And like I said, within 5 years, that's going to be the Democrats. In 5 years, that's going to be the Democrats. Not 20 years from now, not even 10. Within 5 years, that's going to be the Democrats. All right. So Trump was in Michigan yesterday, having a rally. They've got a contested Senate race up there that the Republicans want to try to win. They've got a governor's race too. And he is leaning in, as he has at all these live events, to communism and what a threat it is in the United States now and where the Democrats are headed. And I'm totally down with that. I think politically it's a smart move for him because he can't run on his record. I mean, guys, this past year and a half has been a disaster. So he can't run on that. So he's got to talk about something else. And the Republicans are trying collectively to pivot into, look at these Democrat socialist people. Look at these communists. We may be bad. They're not saying that. I'm saying that. But their message basically is, we may be bad, but look at what the alternative is. But so that's fine. That's a good political strategy. But then he loses everyone, and you'll hear it in the response from the audience, because he starts talking about how great the country is doing. And he totally lost me. You could see from the people in the audience, he totally is losing them. The country is not great right now. The country's not doing well. People, regular people, their personal finances are not doing well. And when you tell something, this is the problem Biden ran into and Kamala. You can't make people not feel their daily existence. You can't lie or fib your way about policies out of it. People are struggling. Everything's expensive. Every day people are worried about the cost of stuff. And now the Iran stuff and the gas is included, and It's not good. And when you act like it is, it really angers people and it alienates people. Here is Trump in Michigan yesterday talking about the communism stuff, which is fine. But then when he starts talking about the condition of the country, he loses the plot. Take a listen.
You remember, like in one of my State of the Union speeches, I said, we will never be a socialist country. But I was right. We're going to be a communist country. That's what they want. They skipped socialism. Can you believe it? But communism is the greatest threat to our country in history, including even World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, or 9/11. I mean, this is a serious threat because they're going to promise all sorts of things. In 1 year, the country will be absolutely bankrupt. You'll live in squalor. You'll live in fear. You won't have police. You won't have firemen. You won't have anybody. You're going to be... It's a disaster. Even the thought of it is a disaster. And we have the hottest country in the world. We don't want to have it, and we have to be strong about it. We can't be nice. You know, a lot of the Republicans are nice. We're a very nice party. We shouldn't be so nice, to be honest with you. But we can't let them get their claws into this incredible... They call it an experiment. I don't think it's any longer an experiment. This has been going on for a long time. We had good years, bad years. We're having the single greatest year we've ever had as a country. We're not going to let these people destroy it.
I mean, you hear the applause, right? People are like, single greatest year we've ever had as a country. Dude, gas is $4.40 or whatever it is with the taxes and everything are factored in. Food is skyrocketed. You can't get a bunch of stuff. We're at war with a bunch of these lunatics who we're never going to defeat. Like, what do you mean we're having the single greatest year we've ever had? It's very tone deaf, and that really will resonate with me. I mean, if I were on the Democrat side, I'd clip that. Donald Trump thinks you're having the single greatest year of your life. And so, whatever Senate or House candidate you're running against, is his biggest fan. You know, the ad writes itself. All right, one more piece of audio. And, you know, when I throw these audios together, I always try to put at least one thing that's kind of not political. Because we do so much politics, but there's so many interesting things going on in the world. I always try to throw like one non-political piece of audio. Yesterday, we had that clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about how his whole goal in life was to make more money than Sylvester Stallone, which I thought was incredibly fascinating. And it really was a mindset of successful people. So this piece of audio really shows how AI, how computers, they're just taking over our ability to think. And it's not a good thing. So this teacher, this was off of TikTok, and then it got shared to Twitter. This teacher claimed 32 of 35 students failed their midterm because he caught them using AI. 32 of 35, this guy claims, of the students were just basically using a computer to write the whole thing for them. They weren't thinking, they were copying, pasting. Listen to how he caught them and what they were doing.
32 of my 35 students between two classes failed a portion of their midterm because they all used AI to generate their entire response. And apparently they didn't proofread it. Let me show y'all how I picked up on it. So this discussion post was a portion of my students' midterm, and if you look, it looks normal, right? But if you copy and paste this and look closely, in white ink I placed the word Madagascar somewhere in the response in a way that makes no sense. But if you uncopy and paste it, you can't see it. So if Madagascar was somewhere in my student's response in a way that did not make sense, I knew that they copied and pasted the entire thing and just threw it in AI. And oh my God. You would be amazed at the bizarre usage of the word Madagascar that I saw in these students' assignments. First and foremost, Madagascar has nothing to do with the Industrial Revolution. Second, it was more than obvious that they didn't even go back and reread these responses. So yeah, 32 out of 35 students failed a portion of their midterm, and that's how. So students, if you're going to use AI to generate the entire response, at least reread it. At least try to ensure that it makes a little bit of sense. Try to put it in your own words, something.
So basically what this guy did is he had this part of the instructions, prompts, whatever, in basically invisible ink that if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't see it. The students were then copying and pasting basically the question, the prompt, whatever, into AI to write the thing for them. And then he knew they were doing it because the AI was then told to place Madagascar into something that had to do with the Industrial Revolution that made no sense. And in all these kids' reports, there was something about Madagascar in the Industrial Revolution, which, of course, it had nothing to do with. It's brilliant. It's brilliant by the teacher. It's pathetic, though, and it really does give great insight into where our country is and where it is headed. And holy smokes, that's scary as hell. Well, Jason made a good point. That's what people do at work. You're an adult. You're not an adult yet. When you're a student, you're supposed to be using your brain. When you become an adult, yes, finding the clearest way to not have to work is fine. But when you're an adult, no. You got to use your brain. Hey guys, our friends at the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage, they're open normally Friday for dinner, Saturday for dinner, Sunday for brunch. That 1 week a month we tell you about where they're open for lunch, it's this week. So this week, Friday for lunch, Friday for dinner, Saturday for dinner, Sunday for brunch buffet. And what an incredible list of specialties this week going on at the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro in Brazil. This week, Dad's Old Roast Beef, Old-Fashioned Oatmeal Cake, which is served only once a year, and Toll House Pie. All specials this week going on at the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage on the water, in the woods in beautiful Brazil. If you're looking for an evening out, an evening away, a chance to get away, relax, have a great meal, maybe even consider staying at the cottage, which is right next to the restaurant, this is your chance. What a great Dad's Old Roast Beef, Old-Fashioned Oatmeal Cake, and Toll House Pie. Call for your reservation today, 812-443-3003, 812-443-3003, and you can see the full menu by going to their website at honeysucklehillbistro.com, honeysucklehillbistro.com. All right, this is a weird one for me that we're about to do because we've sparred several times over the years. We've had some pretty high-profile disagreements. Ball State economist Mike Hicks and I are going to sit down. And he had an interesting column that I said that is worth having a conversation about the economic damage the Bears stadium might do to taxpayers and to the state of Indiana. If the Bears get that stadium in Hammond, the damage it might do. And I said, that's interesting. Let's have a conversation about it. So we're putting our differences aside, and we're going to have a conversation about how your wallet might be harmed about the Bears stadium. When we come back, Ball State economist Michael Hicks will join me. You're watching Rob Kendall Show. Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All-American Dog Fence. All-American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use, in-ground fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All-American Dog Fence backs their Pet Stop products with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All-American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Mention the Rob Kendall Show and get $200 off a new installation.
DC politicians don't care. Buying stocks with insider information, they get filthy rich. But if you did it, you'd get locked up. Thankfully, there's one fighter on our side. Senator Todd Young is pushing to ban all congressional stock trading forever. He's never traded a single stock while in Congress. Young's a Marine who does the right thing. Contact Senator Todd Young. Thank him for standing up for us and for fighting to ban congressional stock trading.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
Rob Kendall Show. Welcome back. Last week we touched on a couple of interesting columns by the same guy in different publications. That's when you know you've made it. And I want to get into him today on the program. Michael Hicks, professor, Ball State University economist, joins us now. Mike, how's it going?
Very well. How are you doing?
Great. All right. Two columns that I wanted to touch on that I thought were fascinating. First of all, you had a column about the Bears Stadium in Hammond and how little revenue, how little economic productivity it's going to actually generate. Tell us about it.
Well, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm about stadiums, about professional sports, about bringing folks in for athletic events. And there are economic effects. You know, Super Bowl typically brings a lot of money in the first time it comes to a city. We all, at least people my vintage, were around for the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, who really enjoyed that. Saw a lot of construction around it. The problem is that when you move economic activity around a metro area and you're subsidizing a stadium, what you're really doing is essentially having taxpayers underwrite all the economic activity that would likely occur. You're not going to see much around the area that's different. And it's what I described as this idea of the broken window economy. You can see a broken window, as Frederick Bastiat said. You see the glazier coming in to repair it and somebody to paint the. What you miss is all the economic activity that would have happened if you weren't fixing the broken window. And so this seen unseen economy issue is just highlighted perfectly by a stadium. And I think if you're a resident of Hammond, you might say, God, I'd really love to see the Bears here. The problem is, what am I not going to see if the subsidies here are bringing the Bears here? And that's really acute for those of us who don't live in Hammond, who are still paying part of the price.
Now, one of the things you touched on is the jobs, and I thought this was interesting. You said very few new jobs will be created because a lot of these people working in the new stadium already work for the Bears.
Right. So obviously, who works for the Bears, right? They're football players, coaches, media folks. They're not going to relocate to Hammond over this. They're not moving to Gary or Lake County, which are fine communities to live in. If they're already there, they're going to move there. But folks aren't relocating in big numbers, not the big paid ones. If you think about a football stadium, you think about who are the workers there. Those are normally part-time jobs, pretty low paying, because you get 7 or 8 home games a year. Maybe you can get a playoff game. Maybe you get the Super Bowl there. Probably not, but it's possible. And then you're going to maybe get a few extra events over the course of the year. So people aren't going to relocate to Hammond. There may be folks who live in Hammond to take these jobs. Maybe they're better than the jobs they have now, but it's just not the thousands of jobs that you hear described by this. It's not the way people behave. They don't say, "Oh gosh, the stadium's moving at 34 miles away. I've got to sell my mansion in Chicago and move to Crown Point as an NFL player." That's just not the way that's going to work. Somebody's picking you up for practice in the morning and driving you there. Where you live is where you're going to live. And I think that's part of the issue. The other one is to think about how capital flows are, the building and new construction and infrastructure is really not going to generate a lot of economic activity in Hammond that's durable and meaningful for the lives of the residents there.
Michael Hicks is our guest, Ball State professor, economist. One of the things you hit on, and this is the big deal for me, if the people of the region want to raise their taxes, whatever, but they're going to siphon off potentially $700 million of road funding from the toll up in the northwest portion of the state. It's supposed to go to the rest of the state, supposed to go to the area. It's going to go to the Bears. I feel like that's going to result in a tax increase for me. You went into pretty good detail on that in your column.
Right. So this is really where you get into that unseen economy. You could think, I'm with you. If I'm a small R Republican, if local folks want to do smart things or bad things, we got to let them do that with their tax dollars, and they can elect or reject candidates who do those sorts of things. If I'm living in Muncie, if I'm paying for this out of our losing tax revenues from this infrastructure diversion, that was really designed to build infrastructure that would expand commuting opportunities east to South Bend and Elkhart. And that is a great place to grow, is a good good potential area to grow in Indiana. And so if you take out nearly $1 billion of infrastructure dollars that would have been going to making that a more commuter-friendly place, you're just dampening economic activity across the northern part of Indiana for a generation. That's how long it's going to take to backfill that. And you're doing that to get a team that's going to play 7, 8 home games a year, a few more events. It really is. There's no way this meets a benefit cost analysis done properly by an economics firm that's thinking about this in a holistic way. And I think that's why you end up getting so much of the hype as a substitute for solid fiscal analysis. And I think for taxpayers across Indiana should be frustrated that this is presumably a serious sort of thing. I'm not sure it is, but that it's at least pretending to be a serious sort of thing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because I said we have been agreeing on way too much lately. I'm very concerned. But you and I are in wholehearted agreement on this. Do you think our lawmakers don't see this? Do you how could they not see these things? They appear to be very obvious.
Well, if you're a politician, you are always running to the seen economy and not the unseen economy. And so if you build a new stadium, you're going to get the seen economy. You're going to get to go to a groundbreaking. You're going to get great seats at Bears games. I don't expect to be invited. I don't think you will either. You're going to get all kinds of nifty claims that you now have made. Indiana, one of the 3 states that are now 4 states that have 2 NFL teams in them. That sounds really cool. The unseen economy part, the lack of economic activity in Hammond because this squelches out what other new growth would happen, the lack of that $700 million investment in transportation infrastructure that means more congestion, more commuting hassles if you live in the northern part of the state, less residents. And that's really how you measure economic success. Are you growing? Do people want to move to your community? So you don't see those things that don't happen. That's why you always see elected officials jump on the seen economy and ignoring the unseen economy. And that's the generally large argument for mitigating government's role in these sorts of things, is that the focus is always on the part you can see, not the unseen part. And if the seen part is smaller than the unseen part here, which it is, you get bad economic policy.
I have no idea what the economic strategy is of the Republicans in Indiana. Do you know it? I mean, the IEDC is a complete mess. Obviously, stuff like this doesn't make any sense economically. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's really clarity here. Now, if he was under the Pence administration, under the Daniels administration, whether or not you liked it or not, they were very clear, regardless of the assessment of these. I was a pretty strong supporter. They were very clear. The first couple of years of the Holcomb administration were pretty clear. About halfway through his first administration, the economic development policy that he developed looked like it could have come right out of, the 2000s, a very, progressive, we're going to pick winners and losers. We're going to build this LEAP district. We're going to do stuff with public money that no private developer would do that. Brad Chambers never would have spent money on private development in an area that was 40 miles away from water. Just all the bad things that government can do wrapped up into one little place. And then if you look at it today, just, and whatever the cause is, internal disagreement, the fracturing and dissolution of a party, I don't know. But the argument about the way that the state's going to pay for childcare, we have an incentive for childcare. We pull that incentive out with no warning, so the number of childcare facilities in the state collapses by some count 300 or 400 firms because they were being kept alive by the subsidy. And then 6 or 8 months later, or a year later, said, no, we're going to turn back around and resubsidize them. Well, now you've just lost 300 or 400 providers, and now you're resubsidizing them using tax money because of that just largely a random event because of some tariff issues. And I think that sort of lack of coherence, what is government for? What does government do? Just an overarching philosophy of what government does is largely absent. But there are individuals across the Republican Party here in Indiana who understand it, but it serves as a coherent state policy. I don't think that's the case, and I think it sort of reflects the dissolution of the party, both parties having real struggles with their fundamentals.
Yeah, because they hate me. I'm banned from the Lincoln days. They don't like you either. I feel like we're pretty far apart on a lot of things. We agree on some stuff, but it's like I don't even know what they are anymore. I like if you say what is the Republican Party, I don't know.
Right. I mean, I think that's the salient issue. I mean, I have been a strong supporter. But, I voted in the 1980 primary for GOP as a Virginian then in high school, and supported Republican policies. Voted for Mitch Daniels in 2016. I have no idea what's going on now at the national level. At the state level, it's dissolved pretty much the same way. I think if you're a Democratic voter, and you had voted and you were my age and you had seen what Democrats were trying to do in 1980, and you were to look at them today, you might also have a similar feeling. So it's not tied to one party or the other, that we're going through this transition of parties that we go through every couple generations, couple three generations, and it makes understanding what's going on really hard because you're trying to hold together a coalition that doesn't plausibly agree with you. There are Republicans who are classical liberals, who believe in the founding principles. They're, Reaganite, they're social conservatives, fiscal conservative, military or national security conservatives, and they're trying to be, clustered into groups that are frankly, come right out of the 1920s, indistinguishable from the Klan. I know that's not a popular say because as a conservative, I've been called racist for 40 or 50 years. And now we have conservatives out there who are, holding rallies that are targeting people by the color of their skin. Is that majority of them? No, but there's the fact that they're present and being supported by elected officials at the state level suggests real fundamental problems. The reverse is true with I don't want to let the Democrats off the hook either for some really bizarre things that have been said in the name of their party that we would all be good to judge one another, as Bush said, instead of judging ourselves by our best of our intentions and the worst of the content of the other side. If we did the reverse, if we judged ourselves by the worst people that we associate with and judged our opponents by their best intents, we might get to a place where we were more likely to compromise in ways that made the world better off.
Michael Hicks is our guest. He's a Ball State professor, economist. All right, so the other column you had that was interesting, and you and I agree on this too. I like that Greg Ballard's in the race. I'm not committed to voting for Greg Ballard, but I like that he's running because he's going to make both parties better. You recently had a column about this, and I think you share that sentiment.
No, I'm not a political scientist. I respect the division of labor, but this is too big an issue. It's an economic issue because what this really does is drives both parties away from extremism. So extremism in both parties, the rise of extreme democratic socialists, the rise of Christian nationalists, which are again indistinguishable from the John Birch Society, the centrist, the policies, if not the rhetoric of the 1920s Klan, the Republican Party in Indiana, are very similar to that. We don't need those people in governance. We don't want them generally in governance. Americans reject the extremes of these by like 70, 80, 85, 90% polls. And yet, in party, particularly here in Indiana, it tends to be the GOP that's more affected by this. It's in other states that are bluer, it tends to be the other party. But here in Indiana, a guy like Diego Morales, very few people here would let Diego Morales babysit their kids. They wouldn't hire him to do a job. He's been fired from every job from the National Guard that he's ever done now, including Secretary of State. And yet there are still a quarter of the delegates at the Republican convention voted for the guy. I mean, so and half of those folks that were here last time and voted for him, they're still out there. They're still part of the party. And so, Greg Ballard has every right to come in and vote to run against those guys. And so regardless of, Mr. Engling's politics, the fact is that the party is still beholden to the Diego Morales group, the ones who are disdainful of the niceties of like, let's not be corrupt day in and day out in politics. Let's answer questions to the light. I mean, he doesn't even, there's not even the pretense of giving a rat's behind about the quality of governance. And those people are still voting in GOP primaries and in the GOP delegates at levels that are stunning, should be stunning to Americans. And so I welcome Ballard coming into it because I think he has a really good chance of winning. At the very least, he forced the GOP to drop a guy who probably needs to be in jail, and replace him with a guy I may or may not agree with in public policy, but is seems by all accounts to be a decent man who's interested in advancing state government. So
Is it Braun's fault? I mean, ultimately, he's the head of the party, right? And he will not deal with Beckwith at all, no matter what stuff he does. He won't deal with Diego. Any of this stuff, he appears to want no part of it. Does it rest at his feet? Whose job is it to step up and say, in the case of a Diego, enough of you?
no, I think it's voters. I think at the end of the day, we get what we deserve. If we go to the ballot box and we're going to put a guy like Micah Beckwith, who doesn't give a whit about anything about local governments or state governance, he just wants to be in the national spotlight, saying the most extreme things, doing the most extreme things, rejecting the basic principles that he swore an oath to defend. And we're going to be okay with that. I think we deserve it. We as voters deserve that. And we deserve it as not just the people who voted for it, but the people who didn't come out and vote against it. I mean, so, if that is really what we deserve, it's easy to hold Mike Braun to task for it. He's caught in the middle of a political maelstrom of parties, changing allegiances and people finding themselves in different areas that are in agreement. And I think that is always a turbulent time. FDR did it really well. He had a coalition of the Klan and African Americans that he pulled away from the GOP, and Jewish communists from New York. That's a big turbulent time that he was going through. He was able to do that. It's different now because we're in relatively quiet times. For all the bad things that we think are going on around the world, there's not a Great Depression. We're not in a world war. And so it's more concerning. But I think as politics are likely to simmer out in the next few years, and we'll start seeing elected leaders from both parties stepping forward who are find themselves necessary to repeat the principles of the Constitution that bring us together to compromise and at least are focused on things that Americans care about.
Ben Sass, we played this clip yesterday he's a former senator, and he was talking about how social media and television and the need to be seen and be almost accepted by the loudest group of people, even though they don't represent the majority of Americans, is ruining government. We played that yesterday. I said, I think he has a point with that like Twitter is not real life, but to a lot of our politicians now, it is becoming real life.
Right. I at the end of the day, I'm going to hold people's feet to the fire. There's always been a new technology. Father Coughlin and radio was a big deal. There are people who are extremists. And again, the American principle is what we're really good at is compromise. I mean, Shelby Foote really spoke to this very well 35 years ago. We like to think of ourselves as uncompromising people. We live in a system designed to force us to compromise, and we make our arguments. In the end of the day, respect one another, respect differences, and respect agreements, and work through these issues. And so, what I see on social media, what I see in this fractured media landscape that's just crazy that you and I are in at least occasionally, is a movement away from that. If I don't get 100% of what I want, I'm not going to play. And I think that's what Beckwith does. He wants 100% of stuff that 5% of people care about, or less than 5%. So he starts a platform. He talks about, he gets 28,000 listeners or whatever his Twitter following is. And that's that's nothing. That's 10% of what the Indy Star gets a readership on a Sunday morning. And so those are, and half of them are out of state, and a third of them are probably bots. And so at the end of the day, that gives us the impression that Hoosiers hate all foreigners, don't like, in his case, Catholics or Jews or Muslims or essentially non-Pentecostals. And that's just not the case. When you walk around Indiana, that's just not the case. And I think that the Ben Sass is probably right about it, calling us to caution ourselves. At the end of the day, though, we're all men and women of sentient capacity and responsible for what we do or don't do. If we can't vote for people who care about the principles of our republic, and if we can't work together at the end of that and respect one another, it's not Twitter's fault, it's our fault.
Okay, before we let you go, you are okay. I mean, I've read your stuff for years. You're okay with property taxes. Obviously, that's been a huge issue for me that I feel like it's gotten out of control. Do you have a problem with the way property taxes are structured in the state right now? Do you have a problem with the increases? What changes, if any, do you think should be made to how we do property taxes in Indiana?
Great question. I think I would like to flip it on its head. I think we ought to have local elected officials or referendum vote on the property tax rate that we assess. So we know I'm going to get a 1% or a 0.5% or 0.75%. And then we do a mass assessment model using statistical modeling that's been done for almost 50 years now. That's pretty accurate. We don't do that very well. And then average it over like 3 or 4 years. That prevents the big spikes that we saw last year before. If I were designing a perfect tax system, that's what I would do. I'd have a small income tax also for local government. I would have then maybe even a small sales tax. I would do, and this is one thing I give the GOP reopening that can of worms to tax services. I would have a broad sales tax on everything, on hospital visits, on crack cocaine and marijuana, on everything we try. As I'm joking, I don't want to legalize crack cocaine, but a broad sales tax on everything, and drop that rate to about 3.5 or 4%, so that we have a broad, stable tax system that doesn't. And then it doesn't really vary a lot over time. It grows with the economy. It's not subject to big shocks if there's a recession. And then allow local governments to raise taxes through referendum at different levels, both the income and property tax for schools, for example, to do the things they want to do, because we all care about different things. And if my community wants to have a big swimming pool and that sort of thing, we ought to hash it out in local government meetings, not have the people in Indianapolis or DC tell us we must or cannot do something. And then we get to choose where we live and we make those arguments. So I have plenty of problems with the property tax, the way it's administered, the fact that it's skyrocketed. We could have balanced it for a long period of time. Most states did something like that after they went through the 2006 to 2009 thing, but the property tax bubble didn't affect Indiana, so maybe we were insulated from that a little bit. But at the end of the day, the having a tax on wealth, which is a property tax, a tax on income or earnings, which is the income and FICA tax, and then a tax on consumption is a way you get that broad, stable tax base across a lot of economic activity, which makes life easier for local governments that are trying to do the right things and taxpayers who want to take home. They want two things. They want to take home more of their money, and they want to have better public services. Good quality schools make you wealthier because they increase the value of your home, and that's a critical part of what local government does.
People that are listening to us on Apple, iHeart, Spotify can't see this, but the YouTube people will be. Over your shoulder, you have like 9 million lanyards there. Are those like all press passes to events you've been to? I mean, that is a gargantuan amount of things that appear to have your name on them.
I do about 50 talks a year around different places. Yeah, I just come back and hook them, and I was hanging them up, and somebody said, "Oh, wow, that's a lot." So I said, "I'll just hang them all up for 20 years now." And I get to talk a lot. I'm invited to go to a lot of places, and I think that's not uncommon for an economics professor who's weighing in on these issues.
We had Dr. Michael Munger, who's an economist at Duke, on last week. I asked him this. Do you still like teaching? Like, do you enjoy it? Are the kids still fun to be around?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The advantage that I have, and Mike Munger probably has had it a little bit different. I've been around the 18 to 25-year-old crowd now for 45 years, since I was 18 to 45. I went from being going to college, went right to the Army. I was an Army officer, taught basic training for 3 years as an XO and commander of a company, then went to a rifle company, then went to grad school again, and been around them. The big things, they're largely the same. These kids are passionate, thoughtful, interested. The variance is a lot higher. I noticed there's the really smart kids are amongst, doing just things that we would have found impossible in 1980, 1985. And then the worst ones that are in college are really frighteningly not prepared to go. The mean is largely the same, and they have different skills. Kids today can't answer the telephone worth a damn. They just don't. I have to train them how to do it. But boy, they can solve problems on their own, and they're really respectful and care a lot about the future. So in ways that I cared about, I was part of that Reagan revolution of young people who was, called to public service as in part because of his language. But I'm telling you, I've really enjoyed. I enjoy teaching. The students at Ball State have been fantastic, and of course I'm getting the best of them working for me at this research center. But classrooms here are fun as hell, and they always have been.
Where can people find you if they want to read you, learn more about you, agree with you, disagree with you?
I'm all over the internet. My Substack is The Country Economist, and that's the place where I do a lot of the technical and popular writing that you read in the Indy Star and one of the 25 or so local papers that my work is syndicated in.
Country Economist on Substack. Michael Hicks, Ball State professor. Thank you, my friend.
Good to see you.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
I'm Anthony Gary. I started Indy Dwell Real Estate because too many friends, family members, and neighbors had real estate experiences that lacked compassion, explanation, and expertise. You deserve someone in your corner with the heart of a teacher, simplifying every step of the buying or selling process. When you hire me, you get me. Start to finish, you'll never be handed off. No stress, no surprises, just the expert guidance and results you deserve. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159.
Did you know Honeysuckle Hill in Brazil offers more than just a fabulous made-from-scratch meal at the bistro? It also has an adjoining cottage, great for a perfect, relaxing weekend away with a scenic waterfront view. The cottage offers 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with spa-like tile showers, full kitchen, living room with fireplace, laundry facilities, and a full deck overlooking the lake. And Andy, one of the owners, delivers breakfast in a picnic basket at 8:30 each morning. Plan the perfect weekend away at the scenic Honeysuckle Hill property on the water in beautiful Brazil. Book today by visiting their website at honeysucklehillb.com.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell Mackay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell Mackay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't done so yet, you really help us out. Like the feed. Whether you're watching live on YouTube, on demand on YouTube, give us that little thumbs up. Really helps us grow the program. All right, so Fauci is set to come testify on Capitol Hill. And in the lead up to that, Rand Paul has released Fauci's journal. And if you're ready for your outrage portion of the program, I am about to give it to you because it is infuriating. But before we do that, do you have a dog? We don't have a fenced-in yard. Maybe your HOA won't allow a fence. Worried about having to keep watching your furry friend anytime they're outside? Avoid those blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All American Dog Fence. All American Dog Fence, the in-ground, cost-effective, easy-to-use fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All American Dog Fence is locally owned. The owners, Kelly and Jeff, we've told their story many times. They were such fans of All American Dog Fence, used to call it the Indiana Dog Fence back then. They bought the business. 3 dogs themselves. They're big fans of our show. And their pet shop products are designed and manufactured right here in the United States with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All American Dog Vents, 317-862-6606, 317-862-6606, or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. allamericandogfence.com. Mention the Rob Kendall Show. Say, hey, I'm a fan of the Rob Kendall Show, and they're going to give you incredible $200 off. They pride themselves on their customer service, being better than the big guys, and be able to beat the price of the big guys. $200 off just by mentioning the Rob Kendall Show, 317-862-6606. Okay, so Fauci. Look, what happened during COVID across the board was a disgrace. I'm talking about response from government as a collective. It was, you guys, you put yourself back in that time frame. I know some of you might have like flashbacks, right? PTSD. But if you put yourself back in the time frame, I'm talking about, that sort of that 2020 year. And you think about when it started. I remember the last night everything was open. The Big Ten tournament was here in town. And me and a couple buddies went out because I'd sort of seen this thing building up. And I told my buddies, I was like, we better go now because I think this is about to get really bad. And they're like, all right, let's do it. So we went out and had a good time. And you just felt like, because it was a couple things. One, you were in such uncharted territory and the rate at which horrible decisions were being made. Like you were seeing things happen in this country that hadn't happened before, certainly not in many of our lifetimes. And it was an accelerated rate at which the bad choices kept getting made. And you looked around and in 6 months at what had happened, what had been done. I'm talking about the printing of money, the throwing out of money, the closing of society, the shutting down of businesses, the stupid stuff about like people not letting people go to work, the standing 6 feet apart at the store, you got to wear a mask, like, all of this stuff. And the crazy thing was like people were buying it. And people were hating you if you were like, hey, like I'm a data person and the data is not supporting this. Yeah, I remember the mask thing. It was like, there's no way, the way a virus spreads, that one of these little cloth masks or these little paper masks is going to stop anything. No, it is. You need to do it. But there's no proof you have to do it. Stand 6 feet apart. Everything closes, but liquor stores can stay open. None of it made any sense. The one to me, the most insane one was the mayor of Fishers at Christmas time set an arbitrary time where bars had to close down, restaurants. Christmas time, busiest time of year for many of these bars and restaurants. And I can't remember if it was 9 or 10 o'clock. He's like, they closed down. Why? COVID doesn't spread until 9 or 10 o'clock and then it just starts spreading? The idea that you had to wear your mask to walk to the table. And then once you got there, you could take it off. It was all virtue signaling. But I'm watching this and I felt like it was one of those, in the movies where the main character will be like watching society play out in front of him. Sometimes there'll be flashbacks or whatever. A Wonderful Life where he's watching what's going on. And that's what 2020 felt like for me. Because people were doing insane stuff. And then when you factor in the insane stuff then led to the rioting, the destruction of cities, the deaths of people. And you look back on that time frame and you can make a compelling case. I'm not saying it's the worst year in American history. It's one of them. It's one of them. And Jason just mentioned this, and he's right, which is where I was going to go next, is the lasting impact of what those people did. I was talking with my buddy Ben Verbanek, WTHI news guy over in Terre Haute on the weekend. And we were talking about how few young people you see out and about anymore. And he was talking, because he's still in his 20s, about how young people socialize or don't now and how hard it is to meet people and have relevant conversations with people. And a big part of that is for about a 2-year window, as a lot of those people were becoming adults, they were shut in. They were not able to acquire those basic social skills. And so now there's a generation of people that don't put importance on human contact. All of this stuff, the inflation, the price spikes, the growth of government, the destruction of businesses, of jobs that never reopen, the lasting lack of social skills or abilities that people have, the spikes in housing prices, the total restructuring of communities, this explosion of irresponsible growth because of the interest rates going to next to nothing. You being unable to afford a house because you're in competition with large corporations. All of it happened because of the bad policies that were crafted during COVID. I mean, I remember sitting there watching the dashboard every day, and we would do that. Yeah, as old IBC listeners, remember we do the daily dashboard update. And I'm like, it's obvious what's going on here. It's obvious it was true after a week, but after 2 weeks, it became abundantly clear. Here's who's most at risk. Here's the people that this probably really could have serious adverse effects on. And I'm not a COVID denier. COVID's real. People got sick from it. People died from it. But there's nothing the government did that they can point to and go, oh, people didn't get COVID because of this. Everybody who's going to get COVID got COVID. Some people got fortunate and didn't. It was bad for some people if you got it. For some people, it was like having a head cold. Everybody was affected differently. But society didn't need to shut down. Free-thinking people who can read and process information knew very early on what the data was on COVID, who was most at risk, all of these things, and then they should have been able to make the choice if they want to go to work or not, if they want to go to grocery store or not, if they wanted to eat out or not. And yet, because of the words of primarily one guy who became this irrefutable voice for no reason whatsoever, he had no experience in this whatsoever, and his track record on dealing with outbreaks wasn't great anyway. We did all of this stuff. Anthony Fauci became like God. And I remember in real time watching this going, why? What's his background? He was wrong about AIDS and HIV. If you guys go way back in the time machine, Anthony Fauci became a known quantity during the AIDS and HIV outbreak of the early 1980s. And he was wrong about it then. A major reason we were so slow on getting a grip on how to deal with and sustain life of people living with AIDS and HIV was because Anthony Fauci's objection early on to dealing with preventative care, believing you could stop the spread. You can't. I mean, there's things we've learned over time, right? Safe sex, don't share needles, etc. But you can't actually stop it with people who engage in those behaviors. What you can do is create ways, and what has happened over time, for therapeutics, et cetera, for people who unfortunately are diagnosed with AIDS and HIV, that they live effective, long lives. I mean, it used to be Magic Johnson was like the outlier. Now he's kind of the norm. Medications, treatments, et cetera, that people live long, relatively normal lives. Fauci fought that. The same thing he did during COVID. Hey, here's how you deal with it. Here's how you treat it. Here's the things we can do for it. Boom, go. No. We gotta stop the spread. We gotta shut society down. And he became some sort of infallible voice where if you questioned anything about him, you were the bad guy. Remember Holcomb? Trust the science. What science is that, sir? You have a gynecologist as your health director. What the hell does she know about viruses? I mean, we all knew it was a joke. Remember that when Holcomb gave that big press conference? I forget what shutdown session it was, but he was finger wagging at people and he was telling you how to live your life. And then hours later, he goes to his cabin in Brown County and he walks into this restaurant and takes a selfie with a bunch of strangers. Nobody's wearing their mask. Didn't you know then, if you didn't know before, what a joke it actually was? Then we caught Dr. Bach's gynecologist, the health director. That's a good one that we haven't brought out yet. That was an oldie but a goodie that you guys loved. Dr. Bach's gynecologist. Where she's finger wagging people about wearing their masks, and then she goes to her kid's wedding and she's not wearing a mask. And she had done that after she'd already been to that event. And remember, we got the picture. And we got the photo and they went ballistic over that. And I tell you people this all the time, and I tell the politicians this all the time. If you're going to say something about me or you're going to do something in a room full of people, you might as well just come say it to my face because I'm going to get it. And remember, they weren't mad that she got caught being a complete hypocrite. Their whole thing was they turned that office upside down trying to figure out how I got that photo. You guys remember that? They were outraged that I got that photo of her not wearing the mask. Not mad that she's a complete hypocrite who went out on statewide television and was wagging her finger at people after she knew she'd been to her kid's wedding not wearing the mask. They were mad that I got that photo. And it's like, you're never, ever going to figure out how I got that photo. And they tried so hard and they drove. I know from people in that office that drove her crazy. And they would fall over backwards if they knew who I got that photo from. And every so often I still talk to that person. It's the first thing we chuckle about. Thanks for that photo. That was great. But the hypocrites, all of them. They weren't practicing what they preach. Do as I say, not as I do. And why would they care? Everybody just went along with it. No matter what hypocrisy these people got caught in. And they kept getting paid. You know who didn't lose their jobs during COVID? The government. You know who didn't miss checks during COVID? The government. Everything just went on as normal operating procedure. So it's easy to destroy other people's lives when you're not affected by it. And so all of this to be said, the public enemy number one, as you look back in time, and it was what we told you during the moment, was Fauci. Because Fauci was the guy that all these government people used as cover to do what they wanted to do, which was put their power pants on and take your liberties and take your freedoms away. And they used Fauci as some sort of human shield. Well, you can't come at me because Fauci said, and everybody loved a Fauci. Well, Rand Paul is one of the few guys who from the beginning was like, this is crap. He's crap, and everything he's saying is crap, and he's never wavered. And now Rand Paul is dragging Fauci in front of the Senate. And in advance of that, he has released Fauci's journal. Fauci kept a journal during this whole thing. And a bunch of people have obviously written about this. Robbie Suave at The Hill, he's a writer, he's a broadcaster for The Hill, had a fabulous op-ed on this. And one of the things that's very clear from this journal is how much Fauci craved attention. How much he loved the attention he was getting. You didn't need a journal to tell you that. You saw it because he kept accepting it. Covering magazine covers and all of this stuff. This was his moment in the sun, and he was not going to let COVID go because he knew once COVID left, Once people said they'd had enough, he was done. And he did everything in his power to keep COVID front and center and the threat of COVID front and center because he relished being a star. He relished. He craved being on these magazines and on television and throwing out the pitches at ball games. He lived for it. It became his entire existence. That's one thing you get out of these journal entries. He kept you. He kept people shut down. He knew the power he had, and he kept doing it because it kept him in the driver's seat in terms of power, in terms of publicity. And he writes it all in his journal. It's all in there. But the other thing that has become abundantly clear, and I said this from the beginning, COVID wasn't no accident. I said this from the very beginning. If you guys remember the first days of COVID with the women, when I was doing the show with the chicks, I said to you guys, COVID was no accident. COVID was created and it was unleashed. I still to this day believe COVID. If you guys remember pre-COVID, what was going on was there was an uprising in Hong Kong. If you guys remember the pre-COVID, there was a serious uprising going on in Hong Kong. And there was real momentum with those people in Hong Kong. And there was a real chance that protest, that uprising, at least in terms of the Chinese government was concerned, was going to get totally out of control and they weren't going to be able to contain it. And what happened? COVID's unleashed. China locks down. The uprising stops. I have said from day one that I believed COVID was created in a lab. It was created by design. And whether intentional or not, it got out. I think there's a better chance than not it's intentional it got out. But Fauci, from the beginning, because Fauci was involved. Remember, Fauci was involved with supporting these labs that created this bizarre stuff like COVID. Fauci couldn't let that get out. So he, from the beginning, went with, no, it's this wet market stuff. It got out of the wet market, the fish market. However, in the journals that were released by Rand Paul on January the 26th, Fauci wrote, and this is according to this op-ed piece from this Robbie Suave of The Hill, Fauci wrote on January 26th that the first infection was in December and not connected to the market. Quote, in the journal, we know the market was not the source. It was the amplifier. Fauci lied. He lied to all of you, and our government let him get away with it. And when I say our government, you can't just blame the Democrats because the Republicans had the presidency and the Senate, and they let him do it. They did all the stuff based on Fauci's recommendations, and they let him lie and get away with it. He lied. It's in the journal. January 26th. Robbie Suave goes on to write, the date matters because on February 1st, Fauci participated in a conversation with 12 scientists about the origin of COVID. That conversation would eventually lead to the Proximal Origins, a scientific paper that, per Fauci's interference, strongly endorsed animal spillover as the origins of COVID and not a lab leak. He lied. He knew from the beginning. January 26th, he puts it in his journal. It was the lab. He lied to everyone, and he's lied about it for years. Suave writes, in this call, Fauci admits that just 2 of the scientists of the 12 thought that animal spillover was likely. The rest, quote, in the journal, well, according into this entry, quote, felt deliberate insertion was possible. That means, contrary to the later suggestions that Fauci was just some neutral arbiter, and most of the scientists he consulted sided with the wet market theory, we now know that behind closed doors, the vast majority of experts lean towards lab leak from the beginning. Yet soon after, Fauci would press top scientists to rule out lab leak. Fauci writes in his journal he knew what it was, and he took the exact opposite approach publicly because he knew it would indict him. Suave addresses this. Why did he do this? We don't know for sure, but it seems possible to me that Fauci knew if it was a lab leak, he would be in big trouble, since he had for decades supported and funded the exact kind of research that could have produced this calamity. In fact, his diary mentions the experiments conducted by Chinese scientist Xi Zhengli, Z-H-E-N-G-L-I, too many consonants together, who was known as the Bat Lady. You guys remember that, right? The Bat Lady. Fauci supported the very research, the very Dr. Frankensteining of these viruses that made COVID possible. COVID existed because of guys like Fauci. He lied for years, and our dumbass politicians, even when it became patently obvious that he was lying, still used him as cover. Because the dirty secret about COVID is a lot of these politicians, they loved it. They loved COVID because it made them more powerful than they could have ever dreamed of being. It screwed you. It destroyed you. It shut down, in this state, thousands of businesses, many of them never to be reopened. Millions of people were put out of work. Many cities, towns never recovered. Look at Indianapolis. But the people in charge were fine with it because it made them more powerful than they could have ever dreamed. And quite frankly, we are to blame because we allowed it to happen. We went along with it. And I'm not just talking about like the original 2 weeks to flatten the curve. No matter how obvious stuff got, people still somehow twisted themselves into mental pretzels to justify the insanity. This guy Fauci should be in prison. What he did and these journal entries are disgusting. What he admits in these journals compared to what he said publicly is beyond words. But nothing will ever happen to him. They'll send him up there, they'll put on a floor show, and they'll send him on his merry way. Fauci made bank off of COVID. Did you make bank off of COVID? It's absolutely gross. All right, I got to talk about something that makes me a little more happy, and that's our guy, Gary Tedrow. Gary Tedrow, Verity Mortgage. Found your next home but haven't sold your current one yet? One of the biggest challenges homeowners face is coordinating the sale of their current home with the purchase of their next one. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps Central Indiana families explore bridge loan and home equity solutions that may provide flexibility during the transition. Whether you're moving up, you're downsizing, or need access to your home's equity, Gary takes the time to understand your goals and walk you through your options. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more. Gary Tedrow, Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 179207. Equal housing lender. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, there's a wild lawsuit involving the mayor of Carmel. This is crazy. The appeals court has now weighed on this. She got sued, and the appeals court has issued a ruling. The lawsuit is crazy. The legal ruling is interesting. We'll take you to Carmel, everybody's favorite place, when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show. Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All-American Dog Fence. All-American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use in-ground fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All-American Dog Fence backs their Pet Stop products with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All-American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Mention the Rob Kendall Show and get $200 off a new installation.
In Congress, I get all sorts of insider stock tips. Sure, I cashed in. It's my Beltway bonus. But now here comes Senator Todd Young with his total ban on congressional stock trades.
Freaking Mr. Clean Marine. Todd Young's got real guts taking us on. Young's gonna cost me millions.
Had enough of this? Contact Senator Todd Young to say thanks and let him know that you stand with his plan to ban stock trading for all members of Congress.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell Mackay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell Mackay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Oh, there we go. Hey, guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks for joining us. It's close enough to hour 3. We'll just go ahead and say hour 3 is upon us. Brought to you by our great friend, John Rust. John Rust loves our program, and he is making the third hour possible every single day. Speaking of John Rust, don't forget, big event, Saturday, October the 3rd. John Rust's house. It's a party in Seymour. No party like a John Rust party. Totally free to attend. You, the fabulous sisters of the Rob Kendall Show, are invited, and it is going to be a celebration of America's 250th birthday. It's going to be patriotic music, antique car show, lunch catered by Double D's. I'll give a little speech on how awesome our country is, birthday cake for Jason's birthday, which is October the 3rd, and a whole bunch more. Again, totally free to attend. Oktoberfest and Seymour's going on down there. You can go there afterwards. All you got to do to attend, get that Double D's lunch free of charge, right? rustforamerica@gmail.com. That's where you send the email to RSVP. rustforamerica@gmail.com. And it's going to be a blast. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Just tell John you're coming, how many people are bringing with you, and then, bam, you are ready to go. Speaking of Double D's, it's Tuesday. You know they're open Wednesday through Saturday, so make your lunch plans, your dinner plans for the rest of the week. Double D's Barbecue in Clayton. They are serious about their wood-smoked Memphis-style barbecue at Double D's in Clayton. You know, they've been the winner of the best ribs, the best sauce at Ribfest in Hendricks County. Double D's right there on 40, located at the corner of 40 and 39. They're open Wednesday through Saturday. Get the full menu, see the specials, ribs, brisket, and more. DDBBQ317.com, DDBBQ317.com. Owners, Dennis and Tina and their son Garrett, they are huge supporters of our show. Thank you guys at Double D's. All right. So this is a fascinating story. It's an ongoing story that comes to us from our fine friends in Carmel. And this is a lawsuit involving the mayor. And the mayor, so Carmel has this huge winter wonderland. And it is called the Christkindl Market. And it's this village that they set up during the Christmas season. It's a huge tourist attraction. It has grown by leaps and bounds over the past decade and a half. And when Sue Finkham became the mayor of Carmel, I almost said Greg Ballard. What was the guy's name that was the mayor? He was there forever. Oh, but Brainerd. I almost said Greg Ballard. Jim Brainerd was the mayor of Carmel. This was his baby, his pet. And Sue Finkham got elected after Brainerd, and she came in and said, I'm summarizing here, basically. Hey, I see some problems with this Christkindl Market. The city is heavily involved from a cost perspective. I want to see some financials. I want to see some stuff. We need to make some changes. And she did make changes to the Christkindl Market and the board and the people that oversaw them. And so this story, by the way, comes to us from a mixture, 2 entities that I use that reporting on it. You Are Current and Carmel, as well as the Indy Star reporting on this story. And it writes, the Indiana Court of Appeals has upheld the dismissal of a defamation lawsuit filed against the city of Carmel and Mayor Sue Finkham. In the lawsuit, which was filed by Susan McDermott, the former board chair of the nonprofit behind Carmel's Christkindl Market. Before the filing of the suit in April, McDermott resigned from the board after the 2 other members were dismissed under Finkham's leadership. So this lawsuit is followed by a woman by the name of Sue McDermott. She's the former board chair of the nonprofit entity that controls the Chris Kendall market. And if you go back in the time machine, there were major concerns when Finkham became mayor around Chris Kendall market by the city of Carmel, which was a heavy investor in the project. And there had been concerns about size, about cost, about financial records related with the organization, the nonprofit that oversaw it. And so Finkham, as we said, made big changes. According to the reporting from the Star, McDermott claimed in her lawsuit that following her resignation from the board, quote, Finkham and Carmel almost immediately embarked on a systemic effort to willfully, wantonly, recklessly, maliciously, and or intentionally make false and defamatory statements regarding McDermott's professional reputation in an attempt to justify Finkham's own actions. So basically what this woman was saying, Susan McDermott, is Finkham made the replacement, or Finkham was getting ready to make the replacement, and she embarked in saying all these nasty things about me and how I did my job to justify what she was doing. Now, this is the dumbest lawsuit ever. And as you guys know, many of you have been longtime listeners, I'm loath to ever support Sue Finkham on just about anything. But in this case, this is ridiculous. This Susan McDermott woman, the fact that she tried to sue over this is unbelievable. And if you're like in Carmel, you need to point at this woman and laugh. According to You Are Current, all Sue Finkham did was, here's what the You Are Current said Finkham did. Finkham said at one meeting, the city had requested financial records from McDermott and two others and only received some information, calling it, quote, problematic. At another meeting, Finkham said McDermott did give some information, but not all, and that the city was waiting for the rest. According to You Are Current, that's it. This woman filed a lawsuit over that, according to You Are Current. Judge Nancy Vidic wrote in the appeals court opinion that Finkham did not defame McDermott in statements she made at a city county council meeting in October 2024 regarding the Carmel Chris Kendall Market Incorporated. The judge wrote, taking the statements on their face without interpretive gloss McDermott's complaint and briefing supply, we conclude they do not obviously and ambiguously impugn misconduct to anyone. It does not say why the records were incomplete, does not attribute fault to any particular person, and does not suggest that the omission was wrongful or improper as opposed to merely mistaken or incompetent. Look, the First Amendment is very clear that the public has very broad free speech as it relates to elected officials. Like, there are standards as it relates to public figures altogether. That's the highest level of burden of proof. You'd have to prove that you said or did something to defame or slander a person. Public figures are the highest. And there's like a level above that for elected officials because the courts have recognized the First Amendment, the right to criticize your government, the right to have an opinion about your government is very important. And it's very broad on what you can say. And so this woman, while not actually, I guess, technically a government official, kind of is because she's involved as the board president of this mega entity in her city that the government is involved with and the government is funding and has say over who the board is. She's not an elected official, but an appointed one. And you're spending huge amounts of money. This is a high-profile entity. You are, in some levels, the face of it. The law in Indiana is called the anti-slap statute that protects people being able to be critical of public figures or government, especially in particular government officials. I would think that she would qualify under that. And Sue Finkham's a government official. She's the leader of the city. She has the right to be critical of appointed members of government that she has some control over. I mean, and even if she didn't, calling something problematic, I don't think that's defaming someone. That's an opinion on how they're governing, how they're leading. Hamilton County Judge Jonathan Brown dismissed the case in November of 2025, ruling Finkham's statements did not meet the threshold of being defamatory. Brown stated the comments were not an accusation of, quote, outright misconduct and could be interpreted that McDermott made a mistake or behaved incompetently. How much money did the Carmel taxpayers have to pay to defend that? Can they get their money back? You know, don't you get attorney's fees if you file a frivolous lawsuit? Can they get their money back? I mean, that just seems like a colossal waste of taxpayer money. But it's probably another example of why government shouldn't be involved with stuff. Because if government hadn't been involved with stuff, government wouldn't got sued. Carmel spends a lot of money on a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm sure whatever the attorney's fees were like a drop in the bucket. But if I'm a taxpayer, I'm saying, wait a second. Essentially, someone involved in so what is essentially a government entity, which is controlled to a certain extent by a government entity, wasted taxpayer dollars to sue the city and a government official, and it has been completely thrown out at all levels. What are we doing here? Well, we're saying something that's problematic and saying that they didn't give all the information and that the city was waiting on all the information. I'm the last person who loves being Team Sue Finkham, but on this one, she's totally right. Glad she won. Glad the city of Carmel proved victorious. All right. Our government just got less transparent, and that's not a good thing. Whatever we think of our government, we have the right to know what's going on and how the government is behaving. And this sort of is a follow-up to a story we did yesterday about the Braun administration and their lack of transparency, with the gutting of the public access counselor and the legislature and the gutting of the public access counselor. And we talked about how understaffed the public access counselor has been by design, about the teeth of the public access counselor being taken away, and that was done by design, about the ability of the governor now to fire the public access counselor if they don't do what the governor wants, and that's by design. And for years, the public access counselor was a sort of watchdog over local governments and state governments, and issuing these advisory opinions in a timely fashion that at least on some level could, if not outright force, heavily prod governments to behave in a legal fashion. And that's going away. And now we're seeing this happen with the Office of the Inspector General. This story comes to us from the Indiana Capitol Chronicle. The Indiana Office of Inspector General will no longer publish summaries of its investigations into alleged fraud, mismanagement, and wrongdoing in state government. State law classifies Office of Inspector General investigative reports as confidential, but reports can be released if the governor or inspector general determines the information is in the public's interest. So for years, inspector generals had regularly waived confidentiality when investigations identified government waste or resulted in criminal or ethics charges, which is a well-duh thing. If someone in government was misbehaving and our money got wasted, or someone was behaving to a level that resulted in criminal or ethics charges, in a bad way that resulted in criminal or ethics charges, we should have, as taxpayers, every right to know the investigation, what information came into those government officials being charged ethically or criminally, or if our money being wasted was uncovered. That's our money. Those people are paid by us. We have the right to know about what investigation led to the charges being filed or the waste being uncovered. Not anymore. The Inspector General, Jared Prentice, according to the Capitol Chronicle, says the OIG is now taking a different approach. They're not publishing those because he claims he's worried about legal risk. According to the Capitol Chronicle, the reports could spook future witnesses from coming forward and may contain information about a respondent that has not been found to be true by the Inspector General, Ethics Commission, or a court or a jury, potentially denying the accused a chance to respond, they said. This ensures case information is strictly presented publicly before the state's Ethics Commission or by a prosecutor to the court so that the accused has the opportunity to respond via the appropriate mechanisms of due process. I don't know. That's pretty weak. They do have the right to respond. They do have and deserve their right to a day in court. All you're releasing is the information that led you, as the Office of Inspector General, to refer them to either the Ethics Commission or a prosecutor. You're essentially telling the public, here's the case that led me to make these recommendations. It's the job of the prosecutor or the Ethics Commission to determine whether those reach a standard of fines or prosecution. But if you, the Inspector General, felt strongly enough about it to refer those things, then the public has a right to know, because government employees who enter into that as part of a public knowing they are entrusted to do right by the public, they're held to a higher standard. And if you don't want to do that, you don't work in the government. There's a lot of wonderful people who work in the government. The vast majority of them try very hard and make their best effort to do right by the taxpayers. But if there are those who are not, or perceived to have not done so, the public has a right to know what the Inspector General found, because now the ethics commissions and the prosecutors could have some bias, could have some political reason not to charge somebody. The public has a right to know what evidence is being looked at, what evidence is being seen by these prosecutors or by these commissions. This act is eroding faith in government the same way, and it really does so at a time where it is clear the Indiana General Assembly declared war on the other watchdog for citizens, the Public Access Counselor. When you're seeing less transparency out of the Office of Inspector General, coupled with complete inactivity in many cases for hundreds of days by the Public Access Counselor, what is the public to believe other than the fix is in, and our government doesn't want us to know what's going on? Governor Mitch Daniels created the Office of Inspector General in 2005 to investigate allegations of waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and wrongdoing in state government. Investigative reports, according to the Capitol Chronicle, which generally do not include the names of uncharged persons, are publicly available online dating back to the office's founding. See, they even have already created these safeguards. Hey, if someone doesn't get charged, their names aren't listed. The OIG released 9 investigative reports last year summarizing investigations into contingency fee contracts, falsified case management entries, improper gifts, falsified timesheets, and other allegations. Now, if criminal or ethics charges aren't warranted, the public won't know any of the key allegations or findings. The public will not know if the OIG or law enforcement are actually doing their jobs. Again, if the names are already redacted, names are being hidden, what's the harm? In the first quarter of the year, the OIG, according to the Capitol Chronicle, processed 1,300 financial disclosure statements from 2025, issued 55 informal advisory opinions, took 150 hotline complaints, launched 9 investigations, closed 28 cases, and issued 8 caution letters prompting corrective action. I would like to state for the record, last year I filed a complaint against Diego Morales. The OIG informed me that they had received my complaint, and no one has ever contacted me again. If anybody knows somebody at the OIG, could you ask them to get back to me about the complaint about Diego and the trip to India? You know, the one his broski, his buddy with the $80,000 contract with Diego's office went on, where he was bragging about selling visa access in India with Diego while he was there with Diego. If anybody knows anyone at the Office of Inspector General, they acknowledged receiving the complaint. They just haven't been able to follow up with what they've done with my complaint. You know, I get that the Republican Party wants to sweep Diego under the rug. I was just kind of hoping that if an elected official disappeared to a foreign country for 10 days and wouldn't tell anybody who paid for it, and, you know, guys with contracts with his office went with him and were bragging about selling visa access, that, you know, that might warrant some sort of investigation. Not optimistic, but if it didn't, if they could at least just tell me that, hey, we hate you, go away, I'd accept that too. Just maddening. Like the most basic of stuff. Like we just want to know what's going on with our government. Who's being investigated? What were they investigated for? If it's been referred to the ethics commission or the prosecutor, we have the right to know what that evidence is to know if the prosecutor's doing their job. OIG investigations contributed to 22 counts in 5 criminal cases last year, identifying more than $100,000 in misconduct and returning $33,000 to the state, according to its quarterly report. There you go. I think that may have been the first part of this year, first quarter of this year. I think they were referencing. Anyway, all right. We're going to take a break. We're in hour 3. We're going to take it home the rest of the way. We got a bunch more content to get to. We got Jason with the best YouTube comments of the day, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. A long way to go. Indiana news, politics, and government you won't get anywhere else. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
I'm Anthony Gary. I started Indy Dwell Real Estate because too many friends, family members, and neighbors had real estate experiences that lacked compassion, explanation, and expertise. You deserve someone in your corner with the heart of a teacher, simplifying every step of the buying or selling process. When you hire me, you get me. Start to finish, you'll never be handed off. No stress, no surprises, just the expert guidance and results you deserve. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
With a lakefront view in beautiful Brazil, the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage is a little out of the way, but totally worth the trip. Down home, made from scratch food, just like the good old days at Grandma's. When you visit the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage, you'll leave more at peace than when you came in. Open 5 to 8 for dinner on Friday and Saturday, and Sundays 11 to 1:30 for the buffet. You must experience the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage. Call 812-443-3003. 812-443-3003. Hey guys, welcome back. It's hour 3 of the Rob Kendall Show, brought to you by our great friend John Russ. Thank you for that. A bunch of content left to get to, and of course, we'll wrap things up today as Jason will make you the star, reading the best YouTube comments of the day, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Before I get to any of that, though, Anthony Gary, he's our guy. He owns Indy Dwell Real Estate, and he doesn't just show houses. He finds you homes with everything you're looking for, explains your options, and gets your offer accepted without you losing sleep or sanity. Anthony is an expert negotiator ready to help you achieve your real estate goals. Put his expert buying strategy to work for you. If you are in the market for something new, you got to have a guy. And our guy is Anthony Gary. Indy Dwell Real Estate, 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Okay, couple of things to get to here. Nate Silver. He is a political analyst, pollster. Nate Silver became famous back in 2008 because he's the guy who correctly predicted almost perfectly. I think he got 49 out of 50 states right how the election was going to go. It was Obama. He saw Obama coming. He got it right, and he launched it into this decades-long career now as a pollster and interpreting polling data and giving insight based on polling data. And The Hill had an interesting article about Nate Silver's analysis of how the country is viewing Trump. And he said that he believes that the country, and it's not even a political, but it's from an interest standpoint, the country as a collective is moving on from the president. He said, quote, this is on Twitter that he said this, "It's kind of striking how, apart from Iran, most of the Trump-related stories this summer have been boring and dumb. Reflective pool, White House Correspondents' Dinner, or kind of funny like FIFA. Maybe we're moving on from him being a central figure in American politics." Look, I've been saying this for basically a year now. Trump's kind of gotten boring. Just like pretty much any television show, after so many seasons, you kind of move on from it. Maybe you like the show. Maybe you watch out of love. Maybe you watch out of a sense of obligation. But you think about your favorite TV show. Other than there's a handful that didn't. Seinfeld. Maybe Cheers. There's not a lot of shows, though, that go on. You know, in the case of Trump, we're on year 11 of the Trump show. It started in 2015. He never took any time off while he wasn't president. So you've been seeing the Trump show for 11 years. Is there anything you haven't seen that you're like, wow, it would be interesting if? And one of the problems for Trump is, once a guy like Trump gets kind of boring, you just want to get rid of him because the actual governance hasn't been all that great. Like Trump in 2015 was so much different, and you never actually seen him be president. You're in your mind, you're like, what would it be like if you could see, like if Trump were president? Somebody told me this years ago before Trump won. Trump was like this perfect storm of where you couldn't picture him being president, but yet you could at the same time. And what they meant by it was like, he's so different, but yet he's such a business guy. Like he's the apprentice dude. He carries himself like a president. So you're like, he's so wacky that you couldn't see it, but you could see it, so you wanted to see it. And that's why there was this Trump mania of 2015 and 2016, because it was nothing like it before. And Trump's first presidency, pre-COVID, was kind of okay. It wasn't really all that much different than a traditional Republican president. Economy was good. The business tax cuts and the way he did business seemed to work. He didn't deliver on a lot of the border stuff. He did try. He got pre-COVID, so 2 Supreme Court justices in Gorsuch and Kavanaugh before COVID. He got Coney Barrett during COVID. And spending, they were running $1 trillion deficits, which people like me were screaming about it at the time, but it didn't seem to have all that much of an effect on inflation. He kind of ran a traditional Republican presidency. His personality was different. The major thing he did that was probably best of all, no wars. I mean, you have to watch the Trump presidency and, you probably give him a conservative like me would give him a B minus, a B. Pretty good. But then COVID happens and the whole country disintegrates and it's chaos. And Trump is still a chaos merchant in the middle of chaos. And the public was like, we got to move on from this. And then Biden is, of course, a complete dumpster fire who doesn't know his head from his ass and doesn't know what day it is half the time. By the way, that audio is leaking out on those interviews that he did. Holy smokes. And that was in 2017. It's in 2017. He sounds old and feeble in 17. These interviews he did, which prove he had those classified documents. And I don't have time to get into it today. We'll probably get into it tomorrow. Holy smokes. And so Trump's second election wasn't so much about that he was different, but that people just wanted to move on from Biden. Trump was doing all the things we'd seen before, saying all the things. It was sort of the same campaign. So you weren't voting. I was excited to vote for Trump in 2016. I was not excited to vote for Trump the other two times because I'd seen the results. When you put COVID in the mix, they weren't all that great. And then the comeback, I was a DeSantis guy. DeSantis ran a horrible campaign. He totally screwed himself. In hindsight, he should have just sat it out and waited. But I just didn't think Trump was all that great as a president. I think when you judge people on how they behave during crisis, I think Trump's response to COVID was a disaster. But he was better than Kamala. So your vote for Trump. And I think a lot of people were in the same boat that I was in the third time around. And when you don't get results, the act gets kind of old. We're still doing the rallies. And yeah, he's bringing, thousands of people. It's not the way it was. It's not the venues it once was. You've seen it. You've seen the speeches. And I just think with the lack of results they've had this time on the key stuff, that being prices, cost of living, inflation, I think people have moved on from Trump. I think they're ready for something else. I think they're ready. You're just not getting. See, the thing about Trump's first term, pre-COVID, even though he's wacky and he's doing the Trump stuff, came off as a kind of a competent government. The government was kind of chaotic. People were coming, going. He's fighting with everybody, Tillerson and all these guys. But the results were pretty good. The results by government standards were pretty competent. It is not that this time. Everything seems like chaos. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. He's still shouting about the same stuff. He's still rehashing 2020. And so I agree with Nate Silver. I think most of the public has just moved on. You're here, you're the president, but it's not entertaining anymore. It's not interesting anymore. Ran into this in my industry. One of the major issues, whether it was talk radio or television, cable news, pre-Trump getting shot, there was a major drag on how you were going to cover the election because Trump and Biden were both old news. You could see it. You can monitor in all these industries how people come, how they go, how they listen. And normally in a presidential year, you're like, all right, man, we're going to get a huge bump. People are going to be into it. They were not. People got into it when Biden had the meltdown in the debate. I mean, it was a normal day for Biden, but it was public, right? So they couldn't lie about it. And then the Trump assassination attempt were the two things that really sparked interest in 2024. And it kind of juiced people's interest again because it's like, all right, this dude, survived multiple assassination attempts and people got back into it again. But that's all in the rearview mirror. It's all worn off. I agree with Silver. By the way, according to polling averages from Decision Desk HQ, Trump's approval rating was sitting at 41.8% as of Monday morning, 56.1% disapproving. Hey, you guys got a masonry color mismatch, previous repair catching your eye? Not happy with the brick color in your home and ready for a total makeover? Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants offer specialized masonry staining and recoloring. Whether you want to seamlessly blend repairs or completely transform your home's exterior. Want to build something new? Bramwell Mackay's 40-year master masons design and construct custom patios, sidewalks, outdoor summer kitchens, archways, entryways, and more. Bramwell Mackay, BRAMWELLMCKAY, BramwellMackay.com. Beauty built to endure. And with that, it's time.
Here I am.
For you to become the star of the show, we turn it over to you. The best YouTube comments of the day, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Jason will have those for us here in a moment. Just a reminder, all you got to do to participate in the YouTube chat, hundreds of other Rob Kendall Show fans, is be a subscriber. That's it. It's literally that simple. And then you guys chat all day. Jason monitors into the show, picks the best comments, and it sparks further conversation about the topics we have addressed today. Jason.
All right, this chat brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing, as it is every day. If your water heater, water softener, well pump goes out, even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. Black Sheep Plumbing can do the job right at a fraction of the cost of the big guys, and Black Sheep Plumbing says thank you to all military, firefighters, and police officers with an American Heroes discount. Owner John McKinney, he's a Hoosier lifer, takes great pride, stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee. Water heaters with a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Give John a call or text 765-315-7558. 765-315-7558. Black Sheep Plumbing. Don't procrastinate like me. Still got the leaky toilet.
Yeah, call him.
I'll text him.
Just text
I'm more
him.
of a texter.
Very good.
But John will take that text, and I got to do that. Matter of fact, the cleaning people, I need to call them. AJ's, yeah. I need to text them as well. All right. So let's get to it in the chat. Let's see yesterday's chat.
I got to say this while you're getting that.
Go right
I was
ahead.
worried I wasn't going to make it through today.
Oh.
I had to get the larger soda because, and I do this all the time. So I got a piece coming out in the Indy Star. I think it'll be out Thursday.
Oh, that's right.
And Jacob Stewart, Indy Star deputy editor, he always reaches out to me and says, "Will you do a piece?" I said, "That's fine." I said, "What day you need him?" He tells me the day. He's all on it, right? He's perfect. He does perfect job. Tells me the day, tells me time. Okay, great. And then it seems so far away when he tells it to me. And then, like this weekend, I knew it had to be in this morning, and I'm like, this weekend, I should sit down and write that column. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Seems like a lot of work right now.
Yeah.
In the moment I commit
Why
to
do today what you can do tomorrow?
Yeah, in the moment I commit to it, I'm like, oh, it's going to be fun. I like writing, but then it's like, oh, it's so much work. And, what? It's not really that much work. But then last night, about 6 o'clock.
Easy.
What's that?
It's not easy.
No, it's not
Writing
easy.
An article, yeah.
No, I mean, people could
you have
just
to
sit
think,
down and do it.
Oh,
yeah.
It's very difficult.
It's you end up putting a couple hours into it by the time you're all said and done, proofread it and re-edit it and all that stuff.
Right.
But point is, I was in there at 6 o'clock last night, and I'm like, I have to have that column done by noon tomorrow, and I'm sure not going to be working between 9 and noon on it. So I better get to work on that tonight. So I did the show, and then I forgot about the column. And I'm like, oh, I'm done. I got the show put together. And then it was 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh, I got to do the column.
I hate when that happens.
So it's about the daycare stuff, the subsidized daycare, and how we're getting taxed into oblivion, but they're in this legalized vote buying thing of subsidizing daycare for people they want to vote for them, and we keep getting screwed. So
that's your topic.
That's my topic.
Okay.
Anyway,
well,
so
I would think you would be able to just spew the topics out.
It is
just what do they call that when you just a subconscious
stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness, I would think, would be the way you would write.
Well,
as
I
opposed
do.
to most people who actually have to research.
But then you got to go back and make sure you got your stats right. Look all the stuff up. Make sure you didn't imagine something.
Don't you have the proofreader for that? It's the Indy Star.
Yeah, I mean, Stewart's kind of the proofreader, but it's like I don't want to make it easy for him. It'd be like if they come on our show, they make it easy for me. I don't want to, whatever.
Gotcha.
So I did it. I got to bed about 1 o'clock last night. I still hadn't proofread the thing. I was like, crap, I got to get up and proofread. So I woke up about 5:30, got up, did the proofreading. And then it's never good enough. Finally, you have to say it's good enough. It's done.
Especially when you wait till the night before to do it.
Yeah, but done. I'm done. So anyway, I was a little worried I wasn't going to make it through today, but here I am.
Excellent. All right. By the way, MLM Warriors lets us know that the Trump will be president for the next 833 days.
Oh.
Yeah, Election Day, November 7th, 2028. That's 833 days from now. Assuming he makes it through impeachment and, I don't know, this time the Senate, they may just be like, you know what?
They say he's done.
We're done. Let's move on.
It'd be interesting to find out what they do, because if the Democrats get the House, they're
going to impeach him. I mean, if they impeached him for a phone call, they're definitely going to. They've got. I mean, how much stuff would they have to impeach him? Not that it's valid, but I mean,
yeah, no, they will impeach him again.
If a phone call can get you impeached, and then a war, I mean, which he was technically right in that phone call, everything about that phone call. To
about
Zelensky.
about Biden being dirty.
Right,
yeah.
right and dirty. There we go.
And then they impeached him for telling everybody to go home on January 6th.
Yeah. Okay, continuing on with the chat. Yesterday, man, I keep forgetting. I was like, I'm going to remember this. I might have even written it. Did I write it down? Nope. Yep. Okay, I don't know. I think it was Rock Laws, but I know that MLM Warriors was on at 3:45 this morning.
Oh, this morning?
Yeah, this morning.
No kidding. That's dedication.
Yep. And then the first one in technically for today, let me look here. Josh Richardson at 6:03, so a.m.
Were they talking to themselves? Or what are they doing?
No, there's big chat. The night before, we opened it up about 6 o'clock.
No, but the guy at 3:45, what was he doing?
That's MLM Warriors. He was, I think he was looking for somebody to chat with, but nobody else was there at 3:45.
Okay. All right, very good.
Couldn't get to sleep. But the first one in today, MLM Warriors. Good morning, everyone. Happy National Milk Chocolate Day. Didn't it be chocolate milk? Should be chocolate milk.
Chocolate, maybe like a candy bar.
Yeah, oh, that's right. See, that's right.
Candy bar.
Milk chocolate. There we go.
Yeah.
I had there we go. No, Snickers is not milk chocolate, is it? It's observed every July 28th. There you go. Just so you know. All right, a lot of talk about cartoons because apparently they didn't want to discuss politics. But we move on to the old man. Happy Tuesday, fellow Robbleheads. Josh Richardson. Hey, good morning, Ma Kendall. You do a great job keeping Rob looking fresh, eating his shirts there. And,
dropped off a batch of shirts to my mom yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. Washed mine myself last night. Steve Green with an E. I know now we're getting to David Shelton and the Max Engling thing. Steve Green with an E. I know Shelton doesn't want to be political, but maybe he should team up with Ballard and travel the state trashing Max.
You know, if I were Ballard, I would say
the Trash Max tour.
Trash Max tour. I would say basically that David Shelton's going to be my chief of staff and is going to run the office with me. I mean, he would be the perfect guy to do that. I don't know if Shelton would even want that or not, but yeah, he's right. Absolutely. Shelton would be perfect to team up with Ballard.
MLM Warriors points out that he was just getting his XP points going last night. That's why he was on at 3:45 because, again, the comment, the chat, we go by points and all that good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Hey, he was awake. Might as well get those points
that's
happening.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yep. All right. That was Steve Green with an E. Andy Engel. I hope Rob leads off this morning with Fauci, that lying weasel. He's talking about Fauci being the lying weasel, not you, Rob.
Well, he could.
I want to know what he knew and what he did because I have a feeling it was very sinister. Well, you didn't lead off with it, but you did a great job covering.
Oh,
Fauci.
yeah. Those journal entries are, and the fact that he wrote that stuff down, which, I mean, it shows the arrogance of the guy, right? I mean,
because he thought he would have a future book, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean,
so just just to make sure we're all on the same page, he was pre-pardoned by Biden with the auto pen.
That's right.
So he can't get in trouble for any of this stuff, right?
Right.
Nothing. There's no loopholes. He can basically walk up and say, yep, I did it all, kiss my behind, and I'm going to Maui.
I mean, the journal is obvious. He lied. I mean, the timeline, the stuff, he knew it was not from that wet market. He knew it happened in a lab. It's obvious.
So this would be same if somebody walked up in the middle of the road and just shot somebody in the head. Sorry to be graphic. I guess it doesn't have to be in the head. And but if they were pre-pardoned for a murder that you're going to commit, then they couldn't be.
No, I don't think he was not pre-pardoned. He was pardoned for anything he did during a period of time. So it'd be like, but I mean, it hasn't happened. That would have happened in the future. He wasn't pre-pardoned.
Okay. When was the diary found? Or
well, they're saying anything. It's a time period, right? Anything that happened during this period of time, you're exempted from.
All right, and murderers are often pardoned by governors and presidents and what have you. So, okay, here we go. All right, Josh, I just wanted to make that point so people know there is no payback for Fauci. He's been paid, and he will not pay the consequences. Josh Richardson, hey, Andy, about speaking to Andy Engel, Fauci is a complete scumbag. Well, there you go. MLM Warriors, shirt is not white, it's pink. I think somebody might have thought your shirt was white, but with the purple back there and all that, it's
like a light red / purple.
It's pink.
Is it pink?
It's pink.
Oh.
Yeah. Adjust your TV monitors, kids. There we go. All right. MLM Warriors. Colts replace figure with wrestling action figures. Colts figure replaced with wrestling figures. You need to get something new, Rob. I'm trying to help. I tried to spice it up with Pagel over here.
Well, you remind me, and I got a million things going on in the morning.
Okay.
So I'm woefully busy.
All right. Maybe I'll bring something. MLM Warriors, Colts figure. Okay, we already did that one. Josh Richardson, the wrestlers have made a return. See, people notice, Rob.
Yeah.
They notice these things. Okay, Chris Chafin. Max Engling tweeted last night about integrity. Did you see that post?
Oh, I didn't. Tell me more about it.
I should have sent it over to you. Yeah, it's. It couldn't have been better timing about integrity in the voting. Not in voting, but integrity in campaign finance. Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. It's in there.
About campaign finance.
Look up it right now. Just grab your phone and look
busy.
up the.
I'll do
look
it
it
after
up.
the show.
All right. Robert, I'll send it to you. Robert Schwartz, the Republicans did what they needed to do to keep the seat. Just change candidates. From Diego to Engling. They know with the combination of polarized politics and straight ticket voters, the odds strongly favor them.
Oh, absolutely. Now,
unless he goes to prison?
This has an opportunity to be an actual story because Shelton is the most qualified person in the entire state to talk about election laws and rules and everything else. He's a Republican. He's an elected Republican. He ran for Secretary of State. He knows more in his sleep than Max Engling will ever know awake about the actual office of Secretary of State. So he gives this story life by being the complainant, I think is what they're called, if the media will actually do the research. I mean, look at what I found in 5 minutes, right? The stuff that I found digging into this, and that was just last night before I sat down and write that column.
Okay, here it is.
There it is. You want to read it?
Yeah, okay. Question and answer, Max Engling. Max Engling's top campaign priority is, quote, election integrity.
Is that for the voting?
A big thank you to the Evansville Courier Press for sitting down with me to hear more about my vision as Secretary of State, holding the line on our common sense, election integrity, and that's his top priority. Not campaign finance.
Yeah, not campaign finance. Well, I didn't figure it would be because competency in campaign finance, clearly not his top priority.
There we go. But integrity.
He's his own treasurer. That's the other part of why I think this story's going to have some legs. He signed the form. He signed the form saying it was true.
Well, yeah.
And somebody's going to ask him, why were you your own treasurer? What are you doing?
I doubt anybody's going to ask him that, Rob.
I'll find him.
Chris Chafin, the establishment was defending Max last night, saying it happens all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. What's his name? The Noblesville guy, Masolini.
Mario.
Why isn't Mario filing some papers on this? When Ballard had 10 signatures that were invalid, and he blew a gasket.
Yeah. So this is why it matters, because these same people made such a big deal about the page of signatures that weren't valid with Ballard, and we said at the time, that person should have the book thrown at him, whatever the law is, enforce it. And two, Ballard had a form, a campaign finance form that was late, and they made a big deal about it. And you should. Them's the rules. But you can't be making a big deal when the one guy does something, and then when you do something that's like infinitely more egregious, you're like, it happens all the time. It's no big deal. Don't look at us.
Right. But we're the party of integrity.
Bai's got to be the only guy out there that's like, look at me. I'm the only one here who can fill out the form. Oh, the libertarian lady, I think, is too. I'm the only person filling out my form properly here. Look at me. Vote for me. Bye-bye.
Okay, by the way, MLM Warriors pointed out that last night in the chat, the conversation was guess Rob's shirt.
Oh.
Guess Rob's shirt color contest is what they... And he says, Mad Duck points out, at least your socks and shoes do match.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's see. Was that... Okay. All right. Continuing on. We got Steve Green with an E. Hey, Steve. How you doing? Hey, Rakita. Max has scandals, plural, and he's not even in office yet. Where you at? That's a good one, Steve. The 0601 board. Rakita is at the lake with his Facebook Marketplace buddies and his jet ski. Robert Schwartz, keep hearing the term conservative Republican. Most of those have been pushed out or pushed aside. What currently masquerades as the Republican Party is anything but conservative.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good point. Steve Green with an E back. I can see Max being stupid, but Hoosier leaders definitely know the rules and intentionally broke them. Well, somebody, come on, somebody had to know that was going on.
It's this simple. The guy, based on Shelton's allegation and what we found on the internet, clearly had an association with this group.
Mm-hmm.
He accepts $60,000 in donations and then claims, well, I didn't know what they were. Well, you can't be speaking at a group, promoting a group, talking about a group. I found out what they were in 5 minutes. You know, I don't know anything about any of this.
Well, you would think if you're actually speaking at their event that you might know what event you're speaking at, or your handler or whoever.
Sure.
Maybe he's the handler.
Well, his handler was the guy that was speaking with him, Banks.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, you work for Banks. It's a Banks-affiliated group. If you have any questions, hey, Jim, what are these guys? Can you? I gotta jot this
Just
down.
shut up and cash the check,
like what?
Or take the wire.
Look, again, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying this did happen, but it's not a bad theory because they haven't come clean on exactly what went down. I don't think anybody's buying the we didn't know what they were now after we've laid out how affiliated Engling was with these guys, that they were getting to the final day to get the donations in. He wasn't doing great with his fundraising because keep in mind, of that $200,000 or whatever it was he raised, 110 of it came from this group and Kevin McCarthy. So on his own, like outside of that, and I think Rokita gave him some money too, he's not doing great with his fundraising. And it's like, we got to, juice the number, who can we get to give, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Somebody else used to do that. Somebody else did that to make it look like they had donors.
I mean, well, these are real donors.
Ended up in prison, but not for the same thing.
These are real donors, unlike
real people.
That guy. Like the Hoosier leadership does exist. Different stuff.
Right.
But my point is, it's not the realm to say, okay, and candidates do this all the time. You always get those emails, well, I've got 3 hours to give me $5, whatever.
Right.
And so they're probably could be looking around going, who can we get to make this number look a lot better? Hey, this group is behind Banks. Banks is behind him. Hey, can you guys help us out? Sure, whatever. And either nobody's thinking it through or it's not incompetency or whatever. And so they get this money.
Apparently they didn't realize Rob Kendall was still relevant.
But this is my point. The guy has no business being Secretary of State. There's nothing in his background where you're like, damn, he would come in there and kick ass. Shelton, you would say that. You would be like, the guy knows everything about this. Whether you like
when has anybody ever spoken about the Secretary of State before Diego?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And
who else would be talking about this right now if you weren't?
Well, exactly.
I mean, you're making people have to talk about it.
Exactly.
I mean, because they have to address it, even though the guy on the goofy little podcast did it. Well, now we got to talk about it. Otherwise, we look like the morons we are.
Him being his own treasurer is going to be the most fascinating part of this because it's his signature.
Can he change?
Well,
can he hire a treasurer?
But he
You should send a resume in and say,
I don't want to be part of other people's money. I don't want to be part of my own money.
Yeah.
Look at the life I live. Clearly, I don't know. Being the treasurer is a thankless job. Oftentimes, these larger campaigns will actually pay people to do it because you got to have somebody that's got to have. I mean, the amount of money this guy's going to raise. You got to have somebody who knows how to do these things, record them, whatever, and you can't have a volunteer a lot of times because you got to have an obligation. Hey, when we need you to get on something, you got to get on it. But the fact that he was his own treasurer.
Politicians need volunteers because politicians make no money.
The fact that Banks wasn't like, hey, man, we're going to set you up with this person and that person and blah, blah, blah. That is what's most interesting to me. Anyway.
All right. Driver. Thank you, John and Rust and Black Sheep for hour number 3 and the chat notice.
Yes, thank you.
There we go. All right. Spray Jockey. Will Jason address cartoons from last night? That was the other conversation they were having was their favorite cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're a little older than me, so what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Well, I really didn't have favorites.
Really?
I just liked cartoons.
You didn't have like one that every Saturday you're like, oh, it's coming on. It's
No, I
great.
mean, they would come on. You'd look forward to Saturdays. That was back before the internet, before a cartoon channel, network, whatever it was. So, yeah, it was Saturday mornings. And I don't know. There's no real, I don't know. I guess my earliest memories would be of Cowboy Bob and Biscuit, whatever the hell the Biscuit's name was, the little biscuit that would talk. You probably don't remember that. And
No,
Janie and Popeye.
Yeah.
That would be I don't know. I think even back then I thought cartoons were stupid, but I was a kid, so I watched them. That was real life. Now we call them politics.
Few things have brought you happiness over the years.
I've lived a joyless life, Rob.
Not even cartoons.
All right, here we go. Bowden JM. For donations to the Rob Kendall Show, need to send checks like the old school days. No, I handle, I put a PayPal thing on the robkendallshow.com. You can send electronically, and Rob will
And we're
still
very
get
clear.
it.
We're here to make money.
We just don't allow wired. You can't wire it. That sounds conniving, doesn't it? I'm going to wire you some money. Really?
It sounds very
like the mafia.
Old-timey.
Yeah, it sounds mafia-like. So
it sounds
wire
very
the money.
old-timey.
Wire you the money. Why don't you just send me the money? Okay.
Well, that's where I go to. No, I'm just guessing.
Mm-hmm.
My theory about that they were needing money in a hurry.
Right.
Because of the last day.
Right.
That's why you do the wire, right? You don't have time to go get a check, take it,
yeah,
cash
because how much was it?
$60,000.
Can you imagine how much the fee would be for PayPal if you sent $60,000, which I'm sure is way over a limit that they would allow. But if you sent somebody $60,000, it's like what, 3%, or what's the percentage to have it? Because you can get it two different ways. You can get it immediate electronic deposited in your account where you pay a fee. I think it's like 1.5% or 2%. Or you can wait for days for it to actually transfer, and since they needed it immediately,
well, this is why
that would have been expensive.
The person I talked to yesterday, because I talked to somebody that's very familiar with campaigns about this, so I was trying to work through all of this. The way my mind works is like I sit around and think about stuff, and then I just once it starts, like I can't stop. And so I talked to somebody who knows this stuff, and I was asking them about could somebody sabotage you by like donating to the PayPals we talked about. And they said, no, it's not in your account. So you haven't accepted the donation until it goes into the account. And two, the organization would be potentially harming themselves by doing it because they can be held liable. So that wouldn't make any sense. I said they'd never seen that. But they were saying, because I was asking about that, I said, the wire thing is very weird. And I said, it's almost like they needed the money very quick. And they said, well, it could have been they were getting it the last day, which they did. They wanted to make sure they had it for the campaign finance report. So they're like, hey, just wire us the money.
Nobody will pay attention.
What's that?
Nobody will pay attention.
Well, I mean, well, really think about it. So that happens. They get the money on the 30th. They don't correct it. They claim themselves until the 14th. So that the money sat there for 14 days.
Yeah. And that was a considerable amount of money to sit there.
Well, right. It goes on the form. They don't correct it on the form they fill out, even though they've returned the money, according to Shelton. And then they don't acknowledge it themselves. Because I was talking to somebody, this person has a lot of experience with the election commissions and stuff. And I was like, well, like, what would the procedure have been?
Was this David Shelton you were talking
No.
to?
No.
Just clear the air right now.
Not David Shelton.
Okay.
Because I wanted an independent view on this. I'm like, because I'm biased, but I want to, try to present all the information.
Make sure it's not just one person.
And they said something to the effect of, if they had immediately notified and had gone public with it and said, look, we returned this, here's what we did, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that apparently, according to Shelton, they filled that form out after they'd returned the money and it isn't on there, doesn't really appear to be very forthcoming. And like, you're not publicly falling on the sword going, hey, we're new, we made this mistake, we returned the money, telling the public. None of that happened.
Do you think they'll replace the treasurer?
Well, he's going to replace himself. I'm sure he was happy to get off
I have a feeling
that
that'll be the last check or last payment he's able to, allowed to accept.
I'm going Maxie, I'm going to need an explanation for that. Why are you your own treasurer? That's the thing I'm most curious about. All the other stuff.
Trying to save taxpayers' money. Just started with his own campaign.
Why did you do that?
Driver wants to know, by the way, Rob, what's your favorite cartoon?
Man. Oh, man. I don't know.
The ones I hated were the action hero, like Superman, Batman, all those when they made them into cartoons.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
I thought those were not cartoonish.
Yeah,
those were too much like real life and like, what the hell? Go watch a movie. That's what I thought as a 5-year-old. All right. Think about that, Rob, and we'll continue on here. The 0601
child you were.
The 0601 board. Well, we played outside like real kids. 06010 board. Best case scenario for Max as Secretary of State. Silent rubber stamp for the Indiana GOP. Worst case, Diego 2.0. I don't think anybody could achieve that status of Diego 2.0. Either way, that was my insertion there. Either way, he goes on to say, not much of a hope to make the R's govern like ours.
No, that's why they got to lose the office. That's that's what I keep telling you. I don't care whether it's Ballard, Schillings, whoever you want to vote for. If you vote for this, this is your shot to send a message to these people and actually maybe get them to wake the hell up. If you don't take it now, no more complaining.
All right. We'll bang through a few of them here. Brandon Peterman. I've said it before and I'll say it again because we didn't hear him the first time, apparently. The Indiana Republican Party is just as if not more corrupt than the Illinois Democrat Party. Steve Green with an E. The media latch onto this story. No freaking way. They're paid and bought and paid for. That's like I said, if you weren't talking about it, we would never hear about this. It'd be a blip in the star, and that's it. Robert Schwartz, guess we can lump incompetence in with felonies long as you have the right letter after your name. Straight ticket voting doesn't take either of those into account. The old man 68, Max is the E1. He's talking military terms. E1's the lowest on the totem pole there in the military. Max is the E1 that we would send over to the motor pool to get a can of K9 lubricant to use for equipment maintenance.
Who was that?
That was the old man.
Okay.
And he goes on to say, I bet the organization that donated the $60K is secretly ran by Diego. Shrog Samich, morning, everyone. I listened to the comment section yesterday evening, and, she wasn't in yesterday, and was surprised to hear my singular comment read and that Josh asked where I was. I kind of cried a little. I was so touched. Goes on to add, Jason's checkup message also was unexpected and very touching as well. We're all really a family here, aren't we?
That's right.
I checked in, make sure she was okay, make sure nothing wrong with Mr. Sandwich.
That's right.
Even though we never hear from Mr. Sandwich. MLM Warriors, Rob Kendall is the answer. Rob Kendall will hold them responsible.
Who said that?
MLM Warriors.
Well, I'll do my best for my little seat here. I'm not. I'm retired. No more public office for me.
I think that's what he means. Shrog Sandwich. Rob can rouse and maybe even save this nation with his voice. Change my mind, she says. Can't do it.
Do my part.
All right. Oh, here's a new one.
Like, share, and subscribe.
0386RM. If Ballard and Bai don't latch on to this Engling story, why the heck not? They both need to go full tilt with this.
Oh, yeah. You got to be. Now, I saw Bai put something out about it yesterday, but you need to fire up the ad machine and get into this one.
Yeah, because, again, I think it's off the radar without.
I think this is one that the more you uncover, the more you might be surprised that you find. Sometimes there's layers to these stories, and this might be one of them. That's one of the things I have faith about the Bais. The Bais like to win, and they got the money to win. So I think they'll get into it.
Spray Jockey, is Todd Young a Marine? Asking for a friend.
He is a Marine.
Yes, and we know that, there we go. Okay, and real quick, getting on to COVID, some COVID comments. Mad Duck, it was an outright attack on human life. 06010 board, 2020 was evidence that our society wants security at the cost of individual freedom. Mad Duck also, the little blue coffee filter ain't going to do it, Jack. Little coffee filter on your face there,
yeah.
Mask. Sue Seifert, I remember walking against the stupid arrows at the store without a mask with Karen glaring at me. Remember they had the little arrows, you had to walk on a certain side and all that. Some stores still have those little arrows in them that they did not pick up. Probably all covered in COVID. All right, Nicholas Wilson, I remember when Abdul fought you on the bar closing time. I assume Abdul thought it was a good idea. I'm not sure.
Abdul and I fought about many things over the years.
Steve Green with an E. If they closed the booze stores, there would have been riots, and I would have been in front. Well, I mean, honestly, you know, if you've ever known anybody going through alcohol withdrawals, you would understand why they kept those liquor stores open. That was certainly a thing.
Oh, I thought it was because...
well, I'm sure there's a profit motivation, but honestly, you shut off all those alcoholics, dude, and you would have had a major problem, in all seriousness. C. Mills, everything about COVID was an absolute joke. I want to beat the crap out of out of everyone who gave you a bad look for not wearing a mask. Josh Richardson, remember when Trump sent a floating hospital to New York? Cuomo rejected that and left elderly people in nursing homes where they with people who had the Rona. Okay. Let's see. You
got like 1 minute.
I know. I just see we get going, and then there's so much more. Make sure we get people's names in. Chris Chafin, churches couldn't meet, but the strip clubs were open. I don't think they were. I thought that would have been the death of the strip clubs. They definitely closed the strip clubs because you can't have a girl grinding on you with COVID. Ryan, 4616-8. Hunker down, Holcomb. No, I'm sorry. Hunker Down Holcomb. That's the name he gave him. Protesting to open your business was a petri dish, but rioting for BLM was noble.
That's right.
There we go.
That's right.
Okay, last one. Well, maybe not the last one.
You got to do the numbers, man.
I know. Bucko 707. My marriage took a huge hit. I refused to get the shot. My husband was furious with me. By the way, Bucko 707 is female, she says. I'm very healthy, and my husband, who was healthy then, now has cancer.
Oh, man.
It's kind of
hate that.
Kind of a sad one to end on there. Sorry about that one. Let's see. Could we get a better one in here? Nope. Okay. So we go to. I usually prepare the final one. So we go to the points real quick because Rob's in a hurry. Let's see.
I'm not in a hurry. It's noon.
We're not on a clock. Over 50 commenters today. It always stops at 50, but we had more than 50. Show me another show with more than 50 local commenters. With the points, we start at number 10. Again, the key to get the top of the list here, get in the evening and get your chat started. Number 10, tied with number 9, which number 9 was McLovin's. Number 10 was Steve Green with an E with 250 points. 300 points, Debbie Holcomb. 350 points at number 7, Spray Jockey. Rock Laws, 400 points at number 6. 450 points for Real Cowboy Chris. Kevin Branham had 475 points at number 4. At number 3 was 525 points, Driver. And number 2, MLM Warriors with 700. Number 1, the big winner for today's chat, 750 points, Josh Richardson.
Wow, Josh Richardson, the winner.
All over it. This chat brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. I should have the chat back up by about 6 p.m. or so-ish tonight, so make sure and get in. Get your points total started. Get those chats in. All right, that'll do it for me. Again, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Also, thanks to John Rust for the third hour. See ya.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. You guys have an awesome rest of your Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. Stay cool out there. We will see you guys back here tomorrow, 9 until noon. For producer Jason, I'm Rob Kendall. You've been listening to Rob Kendall Show.